We have some happening music over here on the line. You got to admit. You got to admit.
It's so good. It's so good.
Happy Sunday, everybody. It is the Sunday show. I am Eve. This is Forrest. We're going to be hanging out with you guys today. It is September 15th. Give us a call. Get your calls in now. It's 720-619-2288. But I'm so excited to be back here with Forrest. I feel like it's been a long time coming. We had that one episode. We had some really fascinating calls. I'm also deeply disappointed that I didn't send you the unicorn horn to wear for today. For those of you who saw our last episode.
I forgot about the unicorn thing. Yes. Oh my God. Really, we absolutely, dude, there's so many cosplay opportunities on this show.
Really,
so many.
Really, truly. But yeah, if you guys have a better argument for the existence of your God other than I believe it, so it's true, again, give us a call, 720-619-2288. But I'm also so excited to do the show with Forrest because I know Forrest from back in my original TikTok days. I think that's where we first interacted. Was on TikTok. And here we are actually having long format conversations. It's great.
Doing this shit for a living now.
Yes, it's wild. It's so wild. So tell me about, I heard that you were on Jimmy's podcast this week, which I also was on Jimmy's podcast. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah, it was a nightmare. I don't know how yours went. It was wild. Jimmy called me and woke me up out of a dead sleep and was like, hey, get on the podcast. Okay. And so I dragged myself to this chair and did the show. Only to find out later that he had several technical difficulties, which of course aren't his fault, but I'm going to blame him for. And so now we have this show where I don't know what was saved. There was a probably 10-minute argument at the end where he was playing music over us, yelling at each other about whether or not you should eat dogs. And then it became this whole thing, and now I'm hearing that everything with music is broken. I don't know, but man, it was a wild show, and he asked me some weird questions, something about being too moist to be satiated. There's a lot there, and I'm excited for people to ignore that video, that episode. Don't watch that one.
Personally, I know what I'm going to be listening to this week on my road trip, so
don't recommend it. Don't recommend it.
Sounds really intense. I got to talk to him about politics and about the debate and everything, but oh man,
he talked about the debate quite a bit, and I was kind of just here for it. And it was there's nothing we don't agree on in terms of that really much. And so we were just complaining about how you literally have a guy up there saying crazy shit about people eating people's pets, and his actual source was, I saw it on television. And it's okay, Grandpa, it's time to go to bed. Come on. It's come on back. It's just embarrassing that is actually the level of discourse that we're at, is racist stereotypes and dangerously outlandish rhetoric. Because I saw a man say it on TV, therefore it must be true. We talk about that quite a bit on the show.
Yeah, no, that's so rough. I still can't believe, it feels like so much has happened this week. I can't believe the debate was just Tuesday night. I was thinking in my head, wasn't that a couple of weeks ago? It's no, that just happened. And did you see Trump's tweet this morning?
No.
Or not tweet, whatever, Truth Social, whatever we call those things. He posted, I hate Taylor Swift. Just, I hate Taylor Swift. That's it.
He's having a whole tantrum now.
He's just losing it. Just absolutely. There's also dangerous implications to him posting that, which is another thing. And I don't really want to talk about politics. I'm kind of over it. I'd rather talk about things that deeply impact politics, which is what people believe. So don't forget, if you guys want to call in and tell us what God you believe in, why you believe in that God, we would love to hear it. Forrest and I are pretty chill people to talk to as well. So if you've never called before, you're nervous, I feel like we're a good situation for that. It's 720-619-2288. But I see we have a couple calls. Are you interested in either of those? I'll let you.
I'm down with whatever. I don't know how well I would like line 2. I don't know what more. There's not a lot to say there, but like we can take it real quick if you want. And
just make it a quick
and number
call.
one would be a long political discussion. So it's up to you.
Yeah, let's let you do the second call and see if we can get through it fast, and then we'll see about the political one.
Sure. Are you waiting on me to click it?
No, now I'm clicking it.
Okay. All right. I didn't see it move. I don't know what's going on.
Matthew, how are you? You're on the line with Forrest and Eve.
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're great. You've got a question for Forrest, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a biology question. It didn't even occur to me that ties into that whole dog eating discourse thing.
Yeah.
But I was wondering why from a culinary standpoint, we talk about like white meat, red meat, and poultry, and they're different in different ways. And then fish is obviously radically different. And I was wondering what like the evolutionary reason is for why we find such vast differences in what seem like very similar animals to me, like beef and pork being different, and also like what the actual kind of like material science reason is for the difference, like what's actually different at a cellular level that makes them different.
Yeah, so like the at a cellular level, the main actual differences is just difference in like the stuff that makes the cells. They're all made of cells, but not all cells are created equal. And so you're gonna have difference in collagen content. You're gonna have differences in lipid content and structure. You're gonna have difference in the microfibrils that make up the cytoskeletons of the things, and like how dense the cells themselves are, and all sorts of things. There's a million and one reasons for that, and it is just the cells are different. It's not a particularly interesting answer. If you wanted to get down to the super molecular side of it, you could. It's not really my area of expertise, but like it really just boils down to differences in the stuff that makes the cells. As far as the evolutionary reason is, it's not like one evolved to be more tasty than the other. It's just, you have divergence in these organisms, and what you're seeing in the muscle difference is differences in the way that they live, differences in the way that they extract nutrients from their food, differences in the way that they store nutrients in terms of fat and things, differences in the kind of foods that they have available to them and how they're going to process those, differences in the ways that they need to be able to move their bodies around, different muscle types and structures, depending on if you're talking about fishes versus porks and things like that. All of that is going to play into differences in muscle tissue and texture. And so the yumminess scale of these things is kind of an emergent property of the way that these things live, eat, and integrate nutrients into their bodies. Again, not a super interesting answer, but it is the answer. Just and especially if you have really divergent taxa, things like between a fish and a cow, like it's going to be a significantly larger difference in between a fish and or between a fish and a different kind of fish. Like between salmon and tuna are pretty different textures. But then again, also fish are ridiculously diverse, and people don't take that seriously enough. So like a salmon and a tuna would be on par with comparing like the cow meat with pig meat, or maybe even lizard meat or some other kind of like distant thing. Does that answer your question at all? Is there more to it than that?
No, I don't think so. And yeah, sometimes answers aren't that interesting, but they're still worth having. So thank you.
I think it is interesting insofar as like I like what it is, and I like thinking about it. I just know that like for a show like this, and for somebody like you call in, I feel like bad, like I'm boring you with just like these little minor details. But yeah,
not at all.
One thing to consider also is, especially talking about fish, this is an interesting thing. Teleosts, there's nothing they don't do. They are ridiculously diverse kind of things. And if you're looking at like just the sheer unbridled diversity of bony fish, osteichthyans, it would drive you insane. That's one of the reasons why Stephen Jay Gould said there's no such thing as a fish, just because there's no way to pin it down. They do so many things, and they also make up the majority of vertebrates. So like, just fuck, dude. Like, most of the things that you're a part of are real freaking weird and really, really diverse and really, really strange. And everybody should do a little bit of ichthyology, just enough to realize just how horrifically weird fish are.
Well, I'll have to check that out. Thank you. Which tax did you say was the most interesting to look into as far as diversity?
Oh, so I was saying osteichthyons is bony fish, but specifically teleosts. Teleost, Teleost. Teleost means perfect skeleton, and it's like the top fish order. And so like, and there's nothing that teleosts don't do. Teleosts are just absurd. It's one of the things we talk about, and like I'm in in evolutionary development. It's like, here's this weird animal that does this, and here's this weird animal that does this, and here's this, and you can find a teleost that does all that shit. It's fine.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for the answer, and good luck with that political call.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks so much for calling, Matthew. I like the yumminess scale. That's so funny.
Should be a thing.
It is. I think that's really fascinating, actually. So, and you're very good at what you do and making it sound interesting, even to someone like me that really didn't like science growing up. Also, I was being taught fake science, so that's probably why I hated it growing up.
Well, that's very kind of you.
So before we get to our next call, and also we do have lines open, and theists will be prioritized. So 720-619-2288. We don't bite. But before we get to that call, I've got announcements for this week. Make sure you go check out Jimmy Has a Podcast. Both of us have now experienced it. It's great. Monday, we have, before I forget, today, if you want to hang out with Forrest even more, which I know that you do, Forrest will be back on again tonight for the AD show. That's going to be with Aron.
Much to our chagrin. I am actually excited to work with Aron. He sounds like a really nice guy. I don't think I've ever actually worked with him.
Yeah, I have. That's going to be so fun. I'll have to watch. And then tomorrow, you're back again on Skeptalk with Erika Gibson, which, of course, that's going to be a great show. Tuesday night, Chewed Gum, and I won't be there. I'm so sorry. I'm very sad. I'm especially sad because Shannon Q is on with Alyssa. I still have never worked with Shannon, and she's an obvious hero of mine. I mean, she was part of me being like, you know what? If that's what it looks like to be a woman in atheism as an activist, like, hell yeah. So very happy for Alyssa. Very sad for me. I will be getting married though. So, you know, whatever. Wednesday. And then Wednesday, the hang up, it's going to be Matt Dillahunty and Jimmy Snow. So that's going to be a great time. TACIS on Thursday with Josie Caballero and Ben. And then that brings us to the Sunday show with Seth Andrews and Paul Inns. And then Forrest is back again for our Sunday show AD next week with Matt Dillahunty. So make sure you check those out.
I was doing that. I'll write that down.
You're like, let me put that in my calendar now.
That's the 22nd, right?
That's how I found out that I'm on some shows sometimes, is I'm like sitting there writing down the announcements and I'm like, oh, I should make sure that I log in for that. Although I had a moment, I think it was last week, I was out somewhere and I log on to Threads and I see that Jimmy's posted, you know, one of the shows is on or something. And it's a picture of him and I. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm literally not there right now, but there was a glitch in the system. So very scary for a second. We have a theist caller and theists get priority. Are you ready for that with Marlon?
I'm into it.
Okay, let's do it. Hey, Marlon, how are you? You are on the Sunday show with Even Forrest.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm all right.
What did you want to talk to us about today?
I would like to talk about Christianity or religion in general being beneficial to the society in terms of charity and other good works. That's why people should not be discouraged in joining religions, you know. that religion is not a bad thing. It
So
helps people, right?
The problem is, I'll go ahead and push back because we've seen all kinds of organizations and cults and political movements throughout history that have been overall harmful to society, but they've done some charitable things. So you're going to have that conversation isn't going to go very far because I need you to explain to me why we need religion and Christianity versus doing those charitable, good, amazing things without the harmful parts that come with religion. Those things come exclusively with religion, not with more of a secular humanist approach, because there's, we're not approaching it with you're going to, spend eternity in hell if you don't believe this. But also here, we made you some food today.
Well, Jesus taught us to love our neighbor and to feed the poor and to clothe the naked, to give water to the thirsty.
So
I think the
Marlon,
community can benefit from those good teachings while also ignoring the other sets that you guys don't want to hear, the ones that...
So in regard to what Eve just said a moment ago, she pointed out that there's been plenty of organizations that have done some good things, but have also done overwhelmingly terrible things. And a lot of those organizations are religious in nature. Like, it's not hard to find a religious terrorist organization that has benefited their community in some small way while also murdering lots of people. That doesn't make it good. And I also want to point out the fact that, there are plenty of, even if you want to ignore that, there are plenty of religious organizations like the KKK, like Al-Qaeda, that are reading the same books with the same charitable, kind messages that you're pulling out of them, and also are pulling out a lot of hideous, hateful messages that are causing them to do evil things. So, why is it acceptable to you to say, yeah, well, there's some things in this book. Jesus said, feed the hungry and clothe the naked and take care of the poor. Also said some stuff about, if you don't hate your family, you don't love me. And I come bringing not peace, but a sword and all these other things that have been used to justify, slaughter in the name of this religion. Why is it okay for you to only look at the good parts and assume that only means that there's only good things to offer?
Well, because I have been brought up with Christianity, and I was taught that Christians should spread positivity all over the world, and that we should make everyone around us happy and to help them, and to share what we have.
But Marlon, could you have
brought up as?
Yes, and I love your honest answer. Could you have been brought up to believe those good things without religion?
It's possible, yes.
Yes, and the problem is with the Bible, we have so many things in there that we have to get rid of in order to get to anything decent. And most of it isn't even applicable to modern times and isn't even helpful. We could write a better Bible right now just by writing down, treat women well, don't own people as slaves, and I don't know, don't assault people. That's already going to be better than the Bible. So I'm just still not understanding what your argument is. Are you saying that we should accept religion because of the good that it does?
Basically, yes.
So then back to Forrest. Yeah, back to Forrest's comment then. Should we accept the KKK because they treat some members of society well and they do some charitable events? Should we treat anybody that does anything right? So then why does religion get a pass?
Well, I guess it's just with me, and that I grew up poor and there wasn't anyone else for my life at that time for me and my family, and we were helped by a religious organization, by a Christian charity. That's how I got my education, my finances, and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
That's how I
really appreciate you
grew
being
up.
honest. I get that. That's how I grew up. And then I realized that I was becoming better than the religion I was raised in. The love that I had for people exceeded what the Bible was, well, what I believe the Bible was allowing me to have for other people. Jesus talks about how it's better to hate your own family, to hate your mother and father if you want to be a true disciple of his. I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't willing to hate people that I loved. I wasn't willing to hate somebody because they're gay. I wasn't willing to give a free pass to all these things in the Bible that didn't make any sense to me just because there was a couple of good things. So I really appreciate your honesty. I don't know that this call has much more to go into.
I agree with that. I agree with that completely.
Yeah. So if anything, I think Marlon, I really appreciate
in terms of my personal mission, I would just like everyone to be happy, And I mean, theists and atheists can get along, right? We can agree on some things,
We can agree on some
things. Depends on what kind of legislation
they're
passing.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that we should be okay and be tolerant toward harmful things. And when we see people attempting to take away human rights of others, we have to step in and say something. That's when we draw a line. When your religious beliefs cross over into how you're treating other people and how you're attempting to dictate their life, then we have a problem. Because I do care about my fellow humans. So then I have to say something. So I would urge you to go look at maybe some of the stuff in the Bible you haven't allowed yourself to ask questions about, and ask those questions, because it sounds like you have a beautiful heart and a lot of kindness. And I honestly think that would only grow more if you didn't limit yourself to a religion.
Yes. But by the way, guys, are you okay with listening to the Bible in exchange for like a sandwich or for the soup kitchen, What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, am I okay with people having to listen to that no, because that's just wild.
Predatory.
That's absolutely predatory.
It's just like the thing is, Marlon, is that like I think what Eve was saying was really, really poignant, that you can get all of the benefits that you're talking about with religion without the baggage that necessarily comes with it. And I hope you would just grapple with if it was some other baggage, right? Because I think that you're talking about Christianity. I've talked openly about how I think that the main core messages of Christianity are deeply offensive to me. They're very hurtful. I think phrases like God loves you are really mean-spirited things to say. And I understand Christians don't hear it that way, but that's the way I process it. So just imagine if there was some group of Nazis that set up for an extreme example, right? I'm not comparing you to them, but like for a group of Nazis set up a soup kitchen and made somebody listen to some horrible, vile, racist rhetoric and then gave them food. You certainly wouldn't think that was a charitable, kind thing to do. Even if they were serving some social utility, you wouldn't be defending them. You wouldn't say that they have a place in your community or in your society just because they're doing something beneficial to a few people. And you wouldn't think that the way that they were going about helping people was actually all that helpful. You would rather that they just gave some people a sandwich and shut the fuck up, right? And so, like, for me, when I'm here in my, I'm in Oklahoma, and we have, I can't even tell you how many charities that do exactly that. If you sit through a sermon, we'll give you clothes, we'll give you food, we'll give you whatever, and you take a Bible home with you as well. They're trying to get converts. They're trying to take these poor, desperate people who are at the worst moments of their life and who are needing some sort of compassion, and tell them, all you have to do is come be a part of the fold. Come into my group, tithe, be a part of my community, give me numbers, make me look good, give me the money that I need, and then also, maybe I'll help you out a little bit, at least until you're not useful anymore. It's just a scam, and it's gross. And
it's
I
essentially
hope that
grooming.
I hope that you can apply the same level of disgust that I have towards that. Just pick a different hate organization and slap it on there and see it through my eyes just for a second. There's better ways to help people, and there's more honest and more better ways to help people that have less strings attached, I should say.
Oh. What are your thoughts on Christmas, guys? Like, do you guys think it's a Christian holiday or something for being good to others, to spread love?
It historically, yeah, but like I think it's kind of become a secular thing. We have symbols that are definitely not Christian. We have symbols that were at one time banned in Christianity. You know, Christmas trees and things used to be outlawed in the church by the Catholics and stuff. I celebrate Christmas every year, and so does my wife. My wife and I. We have a whole Christmas thing, and we're both extremely atheist. But it's a sweet, fun little silly tradition where we get to humiliate a tree and give each other fun gifts that we could have given each other at any other time anyway, but it doesn't matter. And it's just a sweet thing to do. So yeah, I do it. It's a commercial holiday at this point.
Yeah,
you had something as well, Eve.
Like
No,
you guys
I think it's
don't agree with the Jesus stuff, you know, like the manger, you know.
Do we agree with what?
With the Jesus stuff in the Christmas celebrations, like the manger.
No,
you know?
I don't put out like a manger or any of that stuff. I honestly, I hated Christmas growing up. I never liked Christmas at all until I became an atheist, because then I felt like it was a little less corny, because now I'm just like fully buying into the like colored lights and the commercialism. And, you know, as a Christian, it felt really disingenuous. And I also remember learning that Jesus wasn't actually born in December, and it, you know, that didn't make sense. And I was like, well, why are we doing this anyways? It felt really weird. And now I can just be like, yeah, it's a commercial holiday like Valentine's Day. It's really corny. It's whatever. My partner and I celebrate winter solstice, and we have our own little like tradition around that. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
I think that's a really good point, is that like Christmas was co-opted and stolen from pagan holidays and made into, because you had a bunch of people that were already celebrating this holiday. This I think a Saturnalia, or I don't remember which one, but it's the winter solstice is what it is. And you have people that are already celebrating that. And so in order to make converting them easier, Christians just said, nah, there's Jesus is in there too. And like that. And so then you have that. And so like we celebrate Christmas and don't believe in Jesus the exact same way that you celebrate Jesus and don't believe in like the whole Yule thing and like all these old pagan holidays that were stolen in order to make Christmas. The exact same way that I celebrate Easter and I don't believe in Jesus or a giant rabbit that shits eggs. I just like, I have 10 nieces and nephews and I like throwing eggs all over the place and giving kids chocolate. That makes me happy. And so like, I don't have to believe all of the fluff and silliness in order to participate in a fun holiday that's a culturally significant thing for me.
All
right, Marlon. Thank you so much.
That's
Sounds
all,
like
guys. Thank you.
Those were great questions.
Thank you, Marlon.
And we really appreciate you calling. Have a great one. Bye.
Marlon's a super nice dude. That's
Marlon
really, really nice.
I feel like
we need to get more Marlons up in here.
Yeah, there's some like when people are willing to just be honest and approach stuff with curiosity. I love it. We have another theist caller.
Hey.
And this one seems like it'll be more interesting for you to answer.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah.
Do you see that? All right, cool. Let's talk to Sam in Canada. Hey, Sam, you are on the line with Forrest and Eve. What did you want to talk to us about today?
Hi, good morning, guys. It's so nice to be on the call with you guys.
Thanks.
So nice to have you.
So, absolutely. By the way, I'm a little sick right now, so my voice might be a little course. So if you need me to repeat something, please let me know.
So sorry. The only thing is
your phone sounds sick.
Yeah, you might want to move a little bit back from your microphone, because I think it's just a little too loud. You're peeking out.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about now? Is that okay?
A little bit better. Yes.
A little better. Yeah, it's really crunchy and it keeps like popping and everything. I don't know if it's your connection or if it's your microphone or what.
What about now? I took you guys off speaker.
That might be
That
better.
Is a little better. Yeah.
We'll find out. We'll see.
Yeah,
what did you
we'll
want
go with that.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about? And then we'll make adjustments as we go.
Sounds good. So Forrest, I saw some episodes with you in it previously saying that you said like gender is non-binary, but you also said sex is actually non-binary as well. That it's not actually the rigid male-female that we think it is. I was wondering if you can kind of explain that to us a little bit more.
Yeah, so like the long story short is that sex is not just a switch in one direction or the other. Sex is a multivariate system. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. Different species have totally different sex determining systems. Even just looking at mammals, and even especially just focusing in on humans. Even if you try to get that narrowed in, sex is a combination of lots of different pieces all coming together. Not a single one of those pieces has only two options, and not a single one of those pieces is solely determinant of the outcome. And so what you end up with is this symphony of sex, this spectrum that we all fall on. Most of us fall pretty close to the poles of that, and that's why we have these boxes that we call male and female. But intersex people exist. There's people that fall in the middle of that. And that's why in biomedical science, especially, we tend to differentiate when we're talking about male or female. We say, okay, we're talking about anatomical male or phenotypic male or chromosomal male or hormonal male or genetic male or what, like depending on what we're talking about, that could mean very different things. And not a single one of those things necessarily implies, too many of the other ones. And not a single one of those things is the same thing as saying man or woman, because those are gender terms, and that means something entirely different. And so, yeah, just sex and gender are different things. Neither one of them has only two options. And a lot of people like to say that, like, well, it's a tiny percentage. The World Health Organization, it's I think their number was a little, I had this written down recently. I was actually working on a thing about it. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's around 2%. It's like 1.8 or something like that percent. Which in terms of like the population of the planet, that's the same as like the population of Russia. Let me just double check here really quick. I'll just do the math. World Health Organization. What percentage intersex? We'll try with that thing. And here we have 1.7% of the population are born with intersex traits. So now we pull up a calculator and we say there's 8 billion people. So we type in 8 billion right there times 1.7 and we get 13.6. Yeah, I did that number wrong. Hold on a second. Oh, I did multiplication besides the division. Jesus Christ. Watch some asshole clip that. This motherfucker can't do math. Sorry. Oh, my glob.
I do. While you figure that out, I think it's the same amount that there are redheads in the world.
So it's, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so what we end up with is 136 million people. Holy fuck. I'm dumb. So like this is the population. We can check now. 136 million. We say countries by population, and we can sort these things, and we can find countries that line up with that. And if I remember correctly, Russia was about the size of the number of intersex people out there. And so, like, imagine this world where you're like, there's only males and females and Russians, and it's like, okay, well, you just ignore the Russians though, because you don't need to worry about them. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's the long and short of it, man, is that sex is this multivariate thing. There's no single way that it is determined. Not a single one of the determining factors has two outcomes, and we end up with tens of millions of people that don't fall into neat little boxes. And even the people that we do think fall into the neat little boxes tend to not be so neat and tidy after all. And there's a million and one ways we can talk about that. But I'm over here just getting all flustered because I forgot how to do math for a second.
No, it's all good. I was in I did a lot of biological sciences in my undergrad, and honestly, math was never my strong suit either.
Just so stupid to forget to move a decimal. I hate when I make silly mistakes like that. That's all. Sorry, go on.
No, all good. So, from what you said, like, would it be fair to say that everyone is either mostly male or mostly female, with the exception of intersex, and then no one's fully male or fully female?
I don't know, man. It really is a matter of, like, I just say people are, fall into male, female, or intersex, and then I don't use intersex as a third sex, so to speak. I just use it to, like, I explain that category exists, and then usually the people in that category will tell me what they prefer, or like whatever presentation they're going by. I'll just kind of build off of that, even though that is gender presentation. Doesn't really matter. In that case, it's just to be, more cordial to that person, because the fact of the matter is, this is a developing field of biology that we don't have a lot of good vernacular for yet. The thing that people don't really realize a lot of the times is that biology is not this cut and dry thing. No science is. We look at nature, we see patterns, and we draw a box around the pattern, and we label that box. That doesn't mean the label's real. That doesn't mean the box is real, and it doesn't even necessarily mean that the pattern is real, because a lot of the times we look closer at that pattern, we find some new stuff, and we find that maybe this pattern is actually two patterns, or maybe this pattern isn't a pattern at all. And so with drawing boxes around male and female, we found that the lines are a lot fuzzier than we thought, and there's a lot of people that don't fit in these boxes at all. And so we really need to be reassessing what we're actually talking about here, and before we even try to come up with new words for stuff. And the binary model of sex, talking about males and females in terms of, say, gamete size, and in terms of their reproductive capabilities, whatever like that, that's still totally fine when we're talking about, like, species level, evolution level, like big concepts. That's what we do with lots of things. We say, vertebrates do X, and plants do this, and we talked a minute ago about fish do that, and, like, it's good enough for telling a big story or getting, like, some big concepts across, but it's not good enough when you're dealing with nitty gritty details. And so it depends on, like, what level of this you're talking about as to how much it even freaking matters. If you're talking about humans, though, and you're talking especially about human rights and human recognition, I think it matters a lot. And that's something that we should be digging up into a little bit more. But again, I can't stress enough, this is a new and burgeoning field of biology that will yield more sophisticated results in the years to come. But as of right now, we've kind of just started coming to terms with the fact that the words that we had aren't really adequate, and that we need something better.
I see then. So it's like the words for sex and the implication that it is binary, it doesn't actually encapsulate how sophisticated and complex the whole process may be. Is that it?
That's the long and short of it. It's an oversimplification of reality that we got to by glossing over irregularities and deviations from the norm, because we assumed that those things were so random and so silly and so rare, and that they were all disorders and problems and all these things. And we didn't realize that actually it's just a little bit more interesting than we thought. And that is in no way unique or new. That is the story of science, especially the story of biology, is exactly that. We had this system that we had, and we got there by just glossing over everything that didn't fit into the box that we had already drawn. And it got to a certain point where we couldn't ignore all the crap that we were glossing over anymore, and we had to draw a new box. That is the story of discovery, especially in this field. So we're just in a new era of discovery, man, and it's freaking awesome.
I see then. Okay, fair enough. And I guess the second part of my question is, what does this have to do with the Adam and Eve story? What I meant was that I would say, like, especially in the Abrahamic religions, since the beginning of creation with, like, or human creation with Adam and Eve, and then gender roles on, for example, what a man must do and what a woman must do, we see that, like, throughout all the Abrahamic religions. I was just thinking that now that we are in this new emerging field, where we're understanding that sex isn't actually as binary as we thought it was, how does that inform our perception of these gender roles or sex roles, especially if we find it in religion? Like, I don't
One
know if
more
I'm making
reason
much
not to
sense. Like,
believe
is
in
that
them.
clear?
Yeah, if
Yeah,
anything, I
just
think it contradicts these religious dogmatic black and white stories that are not based on science.
yeah, and like the thing is, back before, there was a time when we didn't understand the difference between sex and gender as a species. Uh, but even then, like there are plenty of cultures with religious traditions that incorporate trans and intersex people. The two spirit people is like kind of just a blanket term for trans or intersex people across the native cultures in North America. And I think it's the Wabanaki people. I think they have a creation story of Glushkepe, the great warrior hero who shot an arrow into a tree and split the tree in two, and then the spirit of the tree became the first people, and one half of the tree became man and one half of the tree became woman, and from the stump that was still united and a little bit of spirit was left in there, the first twin spirit person came out. And so trans and intersex people are a part of their creation story that's been there the whole time. Very different than the Adam and Eve story, where you have only a man, and then I guess fuck it, we'll make a woman too. And like that's that, you know what I mean? And so it's a very different vibe in different cultures all around the world. And yeah, the Abrahamic religions do rely on this strict binary, and because of that strict binary and the way that binary is established, they kind of rely on the subjugation of women as well. But at the end of the day, shit ain't true, dog. So like, just ignore it the same way that you would ignore any other religion that got a thing wrong.
Well, fair enough then. Thank you for explaining this, because I actually was kind of confused about like sex being non-binary. I always thought about it as male and female, so it was really intriguing when you said that. I just wanted to hear more about it.
Yeah, I'm making a better video about it by the end of the year. I've kind of committed to doing it, but like there's 1,000,001 resources you can pull up about it. Literally the new Campbell's biology textbooks, like for undergrads, have it in there where they explain the difference. The World Health Organization has an amazing page on gender and health where they just use really plain language to say sex refers to these things, gender refers to these things. Here's how they intersect. Here's how they intersect with medicine. I can pull up I've got my old genetics textbook that I sometimes pull out over there, which talks about it. There's a Springer book called The Spectrum of Sex, which is just a compilation of papers and studies that talk about how sex is not a strict binary. It's a pretty expensive book, but like if you're willing to pay for it is great. Like there's a bunch of resources, but it's really important just to remember that this is shit that we've known for like 100 years, and it's just now kind of coming to the point where we can't ignore it anymore. And so science is changing, and you're going to find a lot of biologists out there that are resistant to that change. They're well qualified and credentialed biologists who disagree with me on this and who say that sex is a strict binary and that I'm overreaching with my analysis. And they're well credentialed and qualified biologists who agree with me on this and take a more strong stance than I do about it. And say that the entire system of sex being even a remote binary should be thrown out. And there are people in the middle who say that it's not binary, but it's pretty damn bimodal. And so like we can keep calling it a binary just for sake of discussion, but like we'll all quietly know to ourselves that it isn't. And I don't think that's good enough either, but whatever. So like you're going to find people all over the place because biologists are humans. And I encourage you to listen to what they're saying and just to listen to what the consensus is now and where the direction that biology moving look at the direction to which biology is moving, and refresh on some modern textbooks, and then laugh at the people who tell you that you should not be reading modern textbooks because they're all woke.
Sam, did you have any more specific questions before we let you go?
Yeah, just one more, and that is just about this. I know we weren't necessarily talking about gender, but with now that we are uncovering the notion that sex may not be as binary as we thought, what does that say about gender? Like, do we, for example, advocate now that we should remove all gender differences, or that there really shouldn't be gender stereotypes anymore? Like, can we speak to this in our application of gender by any means?
I mean, yeah, removing gender stereotypes is always a cool thing to do, but like that the fact is that sex and gender are different things, and because gender is a social construct, it is necessarily going to be non-binary. And we can even see that if even again, you can boil it down as narrowly as you want. Just look at like West European concepts of gender; those have changed dramatically over the past couple hundred years. Before the 1700s. It was very manly for a man to wear powder makeup and a big fluffy wig and to weep with emotion and to faint in distress. Manly weeping was a big thing. And now if you tried to do any of that, people would say that you're not a real man because we've changed our notion of gender. Our gender spectrum has shifted entirely because it's not a binary. So just letting people express themselves, understanding that gender expression is a performance, and it's a thing that is reflecting your and your society's expectations of your gender, and understanding that gender can neither be boiled down to nor predicted by biological sex. Those are just things to keep in mind moving forward, and I think we'll get better and better at treating people better. Go ahead, Eve.
Well, I was just going to say, I have thoughts on this, but the Sunday show, we do try to keep it more about religion, so I'm going to let you go in just a second. But I think these are great questions. I would just, no, it's all good. I was just going to say, I think these are great things, and if you have more questions about them, I would encourage you to call back. I mean, depending on the exact question, you've got Skeptalk on Mondays, Tuesday nights, Chewed Gum. We love talking about stuff like this, anything related to sexuality or even gender. The Transatlantic Call-In Show on Thursdays, another great place for you to get to hear, probably longer, than Forrest and I can give to it today. But yeah, thanks so much for calling, Sam.
Especially if you call in on Monday, you've got me and Erika, so you'll have two biologists talking.
Yeah, tomorrow night is a great night to call for more of that, for sure.
Okay, all right, cool. Thank you guys so much for having me then. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Feel better.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, we do have a pantheist. So yeah, just a reminder to you guys, Sunday show, we want to hear from you. What God you believe in, why you believe in that God, anything relating to religion like that. We have some lines open still, 720-619-2288. But yes, let's talk to Paul, a pantheist in the UK. Hey, Paul, how are you today?
Hi, Forrest. I'm fine. How are you today?
Hello.
I'm doing well. What do you want to talk to us about?
That's good. I just wanted to say you two are actually two of my favorite people on the internet, so it's great to be able to call in and speak to you both at the same time.
Thanks.
I can't wait to disappoint you.
No, I'm sure you will. But just before I go on to my question, I do just want to say I've got an intersex condition, and it was really interesting listening to the previous call. And I was really happy with how open-minded Sam was about that sort of thing. And,
I was so prepared to have an argument.
I was wondering, because especially when the Adam and Eve thing came up, because I get that a lot when I'm talking to theists. And a lot of the time, they literally cannot process it because they can't get beyond that. Adam and Eve, male and female, and they just can't accept anything sometimes.
Yep. Sometimes it helps to point out what gender or what sex is God. Does God have a Y chromosome? Does God have a penis? Does God have a narrow pelvis? Like, what's going on with God? Why does God want to use he him pronouns then? What's going on with that? Sometimes it helps, and sometimes it just becomes a screaming match, which is also fun to watch.
One question I did ask a theist once, and it didn't go down very well, was if Jesus didn't have a father, did he just have a single X chromosome? And would that make him like a trans woman or a woman with Turner syndrome or something? And it didn't go
precisely.
Down well.
Goodness.
Hey,
Paul, what is your question?
Yeah.
Sorry, were you going to ask me something, Steve?
Oh, we were just saying, what's your question for us today?
Okay, so my question is, I'm a pantheist, but I'm a naturalist. And lately I've been very confused over the definitions of deity. Like, I've looked it up on Wikipedia, I've looked it up in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and things like that. And I can't seem to find a definition that strictly defines whether a deity has to be supernatural or if it can be natural. And it's a struggle for me because it's kind of, this would define if I'm a theist or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's my problem with most theistic claims in general, is that they're really hard to define. And I guess I would need an example of something not supernatural. Do you mean somebody believing that like a tree is God?
Well, if you want me to explain my personal philosophy, I can do. I can try and be brief about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess if I was to sum it up very briefly, what I believe in, it's kind of similar to what Hindus believe with Atman, and believing that there is a universal consciousness, which I guess I would have to say, well, I'm a naturalist, but I'm not a materialist. And I believe that there is a universal consciousness and that it's in all of us, and that it does have kind of a will, but not like a sapient, cognizant sort of God. So I consider it a completely natural thing. It's just nature, it's the universe. And it confuses me because I don't know if I'd consider a deity or not, and I don't know what the definitions say. Please let me know if none of that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're describing is still so vague to me. Like, when you say a universal consciousness, is this something that can be detected? Is there something that we have evidence for? I need to know what you mean. Because it still, to me, sounds like you're describing something supernatural.
Yeah. From my perspective, it wouldn't be supernatural because I'm not a materialist, but I guess I would consider myself some sort of metaphysical idealist, but kind of like, not that the universe exists in my head, but rather that the universe exists in a kind of, that it is a mind that just lives out itself through us. Kind of like how, I guess you could say, if I was to use a materialist sort of analog, kind of like how when you dream, all of the characters in your dream are played out by your consciousness, but you're not aware of it. You're not aware that you're talking to yourself in your dream, and then you just wake up and they're all gone. And it's definitely not a materialist thing because, like you pointed out, there's nothing to really detect. You can't really measure it. And I think the dream analogy is a good one because we can't really, we've got the not the mind-body problem because I'm not a dualist, but we do have the hard problem of consciousness. We can't figure out exactly how the brain produces experiences and things like dreams. Do you know what I mean? Sorry for rambling.
But yet is the key. Yeah, what Forrest is saying there. We can't figure it out yet.
So like it's the same thing like, a couple hundred years ago when we said we just can't figure out what lightning is. There's just this magical light that just splits the sky and it burns things, and it's like it's so bright that it causes fire, and it's loud and it makes sense.
And thus,
it's clearly
there may be some big lightning ball out somewhere that exists that is the source of all of these lightnings. Yeah.
Yes, it must be something like that. It's just an incredibly powerful, seemingly sentient force that has all the qualities of life. And then we figure it out. Oh no, it's electrons move and do stuff sometimes. It's okay. And then it's not magic anymore. So like, I don't know, man. I'm not really convinced by things like that, nor am I compelled by them, because if I don't know a thing, I just say I don't know it. And then I don't need to put magic in there. It's not that it isn't cool. It's just not magic.
Yeah, I think that's for me what's what to me this is either yes, it is a supernatural belief, or you're just redefining words, like things that we do already know or just don't know yet, and saying thus a god or a deity or whatever it is that you want to, you're just redefining words, which is where I just personally don't find value. It sounds like you found value to this and that's why it means something to you. but it's still, I can't qualify that as belief in something natural. So to me, that seems like a supernatural, definitely for me, I would put that under the category of deity of some sort. If you're believing in this, like you said, a greater consciousness.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I would say is that, and I really don't want to take up too much of your time with all of this philosophical nonsense. To respond to what you're saying about definitions and things like that, I guess the thing that's led me to this partly is that I was a pantheist already, but until a few months ago, I was a materialist, and I was trying to figure out materialist explanations for this, which led me to things like the whole problem of consciousness. And then I started looking into the philosophy and other metaphysics apart from materialism, like idealism and non-dualism and all that sort of stuff, and dualism as well. But the thing that struck me at one point was that I heard this argument that the material has never actually been demonstrated to me, and that I can't show anyone the material because the only experience we have is our own mental experience. We have mental experiences that we call our experience of the physical world, and it kind of led me to believe that, well, not believe, but I'm still questioning it, but it led me to wonder if the issue for me is accepting the presupposition now that there is a material. Because I know that I exist as a mind. I know that mental experience exists. But I feel like without an explanation for why I should assume that that's a physical thing, why is it wrong to just say until someone can give proof of the physical, that there is just the mental rather than the physical?
So the problem isn't a problem of consciousness. The problem is a problem of hard solipsism, which
I
was
wouldn't
what.
call it solipsism. I'm not a solipsist.
But you're saying that.
No, I don't.
You're saying that your mind exists, but you can't be sure that anything physical exists.
No. I'm not saying like I believe that I am the only mind that exists and the whole universe exists in my mind, like a dream. No, I believe that there is an objective world that we both share, and we can agree on naturalistic scientific facts about that world. But I'm wondering how, since I heard this argument, I'm wondering how we justify the step towards, rather than a mental substrate or whatever you want to call it, that there is a physical, or that the physical doesn't emerge from this mental. Like one argument I've heard for it is like how we've got quantum fields in quantum physics.
Yeah. I would just throw out that there's no, in order for that to make sense, then the physical reality that we're all interacting with is either a shared delusion, but that is shared by every conscious being, or it is the product of our consciousness collectively creating this physical reality. And there isn't any evidence for either of those things. Now, it may be the case that, the created conscious physical field, whatever it is, the thing that we have generated together that we are currently interacting with is structured in such a way that it makes it look like there's no evidence for anything else. It makes it look very real. It's very convincing. It's a very convincing simulation. Those are all things that are absolutely reasonable and possible. But at that point, we are just in simulation theory, where even if I could prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that this reality is real, you could then turn around and say, yes, and that proof is part of the simulation that I have generated. Right. And if I could prove to you that it is not real, and you could unplug like Neo and wake up in the real world, you could then say, this is now level 2 of the simulation. This is also just a slightly less deep layer, or maybe a deeper layer. Maybe me waking up was actually me going deeper, and it's just making me think that there simply is no way around it. And so it's not something you talk about belief. It is just raw belief. There is no actual reason to believe in either direction. And so because this is completely unfalsifiable and completely non-consequential to your day-to-day life, I don't understand why you hold on to it or why you put any stake in it whatsoever, because I can make the exact same arguments as you for a million things that I guarantee you don't want to believe in. And it means the same nothing.
Yeah, I think my main thing, Paul, is that for those things that we can't explain yet, why would we fill in the blank with, magic or like mystical philosophy instead of giving scientists in whichever field it is that would figure out whichever thing we don't know yet? Why aren't we giving them time to figure that out and saying, cool, we don't know yet, but that's interesting? Because to me, like Forrest said, I don't find value in filling in the blank. It feels really dishonest to do that. And it doesn't feel like we're caring about reality when we're willing to write in our own just because we don't have answers to this current one.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I'd say to that is that I do believe that I'm trying to be skeptical and honest about my beliefs. I did used to be an atheist and a materialist. And I guess the way I'm looking at it is that what Forrest was saying was very interesting. I really, that gave me a lot to think about. But I would say that it also is something that applies to materialism as a metaphysic, because if we can't prove that there is the physical, and this is a framework we are using to describe what our senses perceive, then that does make sense. It makes sense, of course, but as Forrest was saying, without evidence to believe it, why would you? And there's no way to prove that the physical is real. But what I was going to say as well is that, and I think I've nearly lost my train of thought there. I think what I was going to say as well is that, oh yeah, that was it. It would kind of make sense as well in a way that, as Forrest was saying about how if this physical reality emerges from some sort of shared consciousness, that it would make sense to me at least that it would emerge in a way that comports to the five senses that we happen to have. We experience a world of taste and smells and sight and things we can touch and things like that. I imagine the world looks very different to something like a bacteria that can only feel its environment if it can at all. But I guess, yeah, the crux of it for me is like it's that step between knowing that I'm a mind, and knowing that that there is an outside reality we all share, but then that step two, maybe I'm being a little too skeptical. I don't know. That step two, the outside world is physical rather than mental, like me and possibly everyone else that shares this reality. I'm not sure. But I hope we're not getting too far into the weeds here. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah, I think it would be good for you to go back and listen to the call, because I think even some of the things you just said kind of got addressed in what Forrest was pointing out. But yeah, it's all interesting. I think we lose grip of the reality that we can agree on when we start going down these like fill in the blank with this, dark philosophy type stuff. I don't know what to call it other than that. But I understand that it's like, to me, that's the kind of thing that's fun to talk about, but I can't base my life around this idea that, well, to me, and honestly, it does really sound a lot like hard solipsism, but yeah, I guess that would just be my advice, is to go back and listen to the call, listen to what Forrest had to say, because I thought it was really insightful. But I really appreciate you calling in. I appreciate your questions and your thoughts and all of that. And it was great to talk to you, and I hope you'll call back sometime.
Yeah, maybe I will. Thanks. It was great to talk to you as well, and you, Forrest.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Have a good evening. Bye.
Yeah, I think we were getting a little bit into the weeds of philosophy instead of what's here now happening. All right, we have lines open 720-619-2288, and we've got a call kind of relating to religion, so we can take this one from Teddy in the UK. Hey Teddy, how are you?
Hello, I'm okay. How are you both?
I'm doing well. What did you want to talk
to us about today? Good.
That's good to hear. I'm sorry if my English is bad. It is not my first or second language, so I am a little bit wavy on it.
It sounds great to me. I appreciate you putting in the effort just to be able to talk to us.
Yeah. So I wanted to just ask on advice. So I'm an atheist, and my fiance is a Christian. We've been together for 6.5 years now. He is from the UK and I'm a Bulgarian. So there are a few cultural differences, and one of them is religion. And we're going to have a wedding soon, and I'm not sure what to compromise on, because his family is religious and my family is very easygoing and very just like, they would be happy if I just wore jeans and a white shirt, and that's fine. So I was just wondering if I should, I don't know, give in to like to his side, because it seems to matter to him and his mom.
That is such a
also
go ahead.
Kind of
all you, Eve.
Because...
All you. I got a few things to say, and none of them are good.
I want to hear what Forrest has to say first, actually, especially if it's not good. What are your first thoughts?
My first thoughts are, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but it's sounding like you're saying that this person is like, there's a conflict of religion, which, okay, shit happens, and like I could give you advice on how to deal with that, and that's fine. But like, it sounds like they're also trying to like push not just their cultural norms, but their cultural gender norms on you, and saying you have to dress a certain way as well. And my advice in that situation is fuck that. But like, maybe I'm misunderstanding, because for me, I love my wife dearly. I don't care what she wants to wear. I think she's gorgeous, and like I've seen her wear all sorts of things. She looks perfect in everything that she puts on her body. And so like, I don't mind one bit. And I'm there to tell her, like, if I think something's wrong, like, hey, you messed this up. This tag's hanging out. Maybe you put your blush on in the dark. I don't know what's going on. This is a lot here. There's something that I think, just like to help, I'll say that. And if she's like, I don't care, I like it, then I don't care either, and I'm happy. And if it's something that like she appreciates, and she'll go change, the same way that if I had a gross nose hair hanging out, I'd want her to tell me. Or if I had my, my pants were on backwards, I'd want her to let me know. And if I'm like, yo, I want to wear it this way today, she'd be like, fuck it, let's do it. That sounds great. I'll do it too. Who cares? So anybody who's going to try to tell you how to dress or how to believe can eat several dicks, and that's my immediate reaction. But again, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Maybe there's something more to it than that. That's just what I'm hearing, and I don't know.
Well, he doesn't. Well, it's kind of funny. So when we are alone and when it's just us, he doesn't care either, and it's just easygoing, and it's just so smooth and wonderful, and I don't have to worry. But whenever he goes meets with his mom or dad, and just when he comes back, every time it's like, oh well, you should dress this way, or she should have a skirt, or
so that's what the actual problem is. That's what is that he's trying to impress his parents more than he's trying to support his wife, and that sucks.
Yeah. So here's Teddy, here's a few thoughts real quick. First of all, unfortunately, you probably called the two worst people to ask about this. Forrest just gave his response, and I am getting married this week. I'm eloping. We are not including anybody else. We went shopping together at the mall the other day. I found what I liked. He helped me pick it out. And I'm wearing something that I want. It's not traditional. And if I were in a situation where, which I'm just not, because I couldn't, this is why I could not be with a theist. But if I were in a situation where my partner was telling me, hey, it's going to upset my family for you to do this. If I'm going over to their house for dinner, okay, you know what? Sometimes it's easier, especially with older people. Let me just be respectful of the culture that they're used to, and it is what it is. I can do that. That's my decision, and I feel comfortable doing that. If it's my wedding and I'm getting married and this is supposed to be my day and it's about like my relationship, fuck that. I am doing what I'm doing. And if they're not comfortable, then they can stay home and that's their problem. Devil's advocate, if you have, or maybe God's advocate for a second, if you have a truly healthy, amazing relationship with this guy and you guys are on the same page about stuff and you both reach the conclusion together, you know what? We're just happy to be together and we're doing this wedding mostly for other people because, you know, they're older, they're parents, they're excited about it. Let's give them a wedding and we'll decide together. We're going to give it the old traditional aesthetic and they'll be happy. And then we're going to go off on this amazing trip together or whatever it is. Then I could be like, you know what? I understand that. That's fine. Whatever makes your life easier that you can live with. But now with what you've just said to Forrest, I just highly recommend that you sit down with a therapist together because that issue is going to haunt your relationship in way more ways than what you wear on your wedding day. And that's already
absolutely
a pretty, big thing. So
anyways, that's the thing that I would recommend.
That's all I can
like
say without getting too personal.
Yeah, I in terms of the wedding, I think Eve hit the nail on the head. Whose wedding is it? Is it your wedding or is it the parents' wedding? It's your fucking wedding. You wear what you want to wear. You do what you want to do. But then also extend that mentality to the rest of your relationship. Dude, I'm not dating your mom. I'm not dating your parents. I don't give a fuck what I'm dating you. I care what you think. And if you think that I need to do a certain thing, then we as a team need to figure that out because I'm not here to have a relationship with you and your fucking clan. I'm here to have a relationship with you. And so like that's for me, that's very important. I know there's some things that
said.
Oh, thank you. I know there's some stuff that my wife's family doesn't like about me, particularly that I'm an atheist. And guess what? I'm not sleeping with any of them. So like, it's fine. They can keep that to themselves. I care about my wife and me and our happiness moving forward.
The thing is, so I have anxiety and sometimes I let people do their thing over what I want. And it's very, very hard for me to, like Eve said, have my day. It's very hard for me to do that.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Girl.
I used to be like that. When I changed when I stopped believing and I had to leave the cult I was in, I got pretty fearless after that. So it is a privileged take for me to be able to say like, fuck that, I'm doing what I want. And I recognize that because I was married before in the past and I didn't do what I wanted. In fact, I didn't even want to be getting married at all. So I have a lot of compassion and empathy for you and not being able to like speak up about, a day that is important to you. If you're in a position and if you're in a place in your relationship, which I hope you are, if you're marrying him, to be able to sit down and say, you know what, I need to be brave for a second and talk to you about what this means to me and kind of express it from that point. I think that might be your best bet to say like, hey, I need a partner in this to back me up because these are some things that are important to me about the celebration of our relationship. And can you be there for me in making sure these things happen this way? That's what I would advise. And if you're not in a position to be able to do that and turn to him as a safe person for that, then I really think it would be amazing for you to invest in a professional.
I think if we sat down and it was just us and nobody else, and If I really talked to him seriously, he would listen.
Yeah, write a letter if you need
to. He proposed to me. He proposed to me 3 times. I said no the first 2 times.
Good for you. Make him sweat it out a little bit.
Make him work for it.
I said no the first 2 times because of cultural difference. Because in my culture, it's there's certain things each person on the relationship needs to get done, and he wasn't doing some of them, and I wasn't doing some of them, and we talked about it, and he kind of was disappointed at first, but then just buckled down and started doing the things I told him I need him to do, and that was so amazing. I eventually said yes. So maybe I just need to sit down.
Yeah, communication does wonders. And I understand it takes some bravery to do that, but I think especially if you're in a relationship where you have cultural differences, you have I'm assuming different languages are your first language, because my fiance and he's from Finland. His first language is not English either. So, that already adds a layer. And then you have the added layer of theist and atheist. Those are some amazing obstacles to overcome when you do overcome them. So that's already amazing. And if you guys can do that, then you can sit down and express what this day is to you and how to combine your cultures and your beliefs in a way that is not just something you each can live with, but something you each can be excited for about that day. So anyways, I love this. Thanks so much for calling, Teddy. Oh, sorry, Forrest.
If I can, just really briefly, I'm sorry. I know this isn't but I think it's really important to help with your anxiety and everything, to really frame it as well, to remember that if this is the person you love and this is the person you want to spend your life with, then you need to be a team. And so if you're framing this as you're going to go have this argument with this person, and that's a scary, anxious, you're already framing it wrong in terms of your relationship. You are both attacking this problem together. And the problem is your discomfort and your safety and your security and your autonomy and your happiness is being affronted by this person's parents. That's an issue for you, and therefore it is an issue for your relationship. So if the relationship is more important than his feelings, than his parents, or whatever, which it should be, then you are a team, united, working together to solve a problem. There is no winner in this argument because it's not an argument. You are winning together when you are figuring out how to make yourselves happier and how to make your special day truly special for you. So try, if you're really anxious about this, just try framing it that way in your head, because that's how I think all problems in a relationship should be framed. Whether it's an external threat or an internal problem, my wife and I are attacking it together as a team. And therefore, there's no one of us that's trying to come out on top over the other one, trying to, anything like that. And it doesn't have to be a scary argument or a fight or anything like that. It's just us talking honestly with each other and finding the best way to make sure that we are happy.
I'll try to remember that. Thank you so much both for your time. And
thanks,
for taking
Teddy.
my call. I hope you have a lovely evening.
Thanks so much.
You
too. And congratulations on your engagement and upcoming wedding. And I really wish all the absolute best for you. And I hope it ends up being an amazing day.
Sorry to be so spicy about your fiance.
Call us back with an update if you have one.
Yep.
Okay.
Bye, Teddy.
I'll first speak to him. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sounds great. Bye-bye. We've had so many sweet callers today.
Right? This has been a fun show. We've been dating advice and sex and gender lessons and all sorts of things.
I'm just wondering, where the theists are hiding today, because they've been all up in my comment section today, telling me everyone's mad at me for posting that video of, the unicorn call, because they're like, this is an embarrassment. Yeah, they're like, you're just posting this because it's the worst of the worst. And that part in the clip, I posted it just because it's comical. You can go listen to the whole call. He was, if anything, one of the more honest theist callers we've had, which unfortunately for him is why we got that soundbite.
It's really bad.
It's pretty bad, but that's why I'm like, well, theists, if you can do better than that, then actually call us and have a conversation. I think you've been hearing, Forrest and I are not we're really chill to talk to about these things. We'll ask you questions, but
genuinely relaxing people.
We're pretty chill.
As
long as you don't do anything
it's crazy. I've had I've got the Roll for Initiative thing, by the way, which by the way has raised over $25,000 for Doctors Without Borders now. Go watch it.
Amazing.
But I've got people in the comment section on almost every video that, hey, you atheist evolutionist, you got to prove this. I'm like, this is a charity show, and you're coming all the way here just to try to get some screen time. Fucking call me. Here's your chance to say some shit and not scream into the void in a YouTube comment section. This is your opportunity. Nothing. Every time we're on the air.
Yeah. If you believe in a God and you think you have a good reason. Yeah, if it's you, it's me too. So I don't know what's going on. But it's not us because like you said, they're all over our comment stuff. They just, I guess, can't back it up in a phone call. I don't know. I would love to hear from a theist. 720-619-2288. Until then, while you guys are gathering up whatever it is. Oh, actually, we have a theist caller, and I can already tell I'm going to hate this topic, but maybe I won't.
You just started saying all these nice things. How we're so kind.
I know. I
haven't even talked to this guy. I fucking hate him.
Numerology. No, it's not the guy. I'm sure he's going to be great. I already hate numbers in general. I hate math. I hate numerology.
I just showed that I forgot how a percentage works a minute ago. So like, this is going to be a great show.
Tim, no offense to you. I just, I hate numbers. So, but this will be interesting. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you two?
Good. So,
really
okay,
good,
I see here you have evidence for the Bible being true based on numerology.
That's correct. Okay, so can I? You mentioned hell earlier. Can I quickly go there and then we'll get back to the numerology?
How quick?
Yeah, you can say it real quick and then we'll see if that's something we want to, because we either need to talk about that or this, but go for it.
Yeah. Well, the most popular view that held by Christians for 1,500 years now has been the eternal conscious torment view. And unfortunately, Christians are a bunch of blockheads. There are three views that the Bible or Christians have held since the beginning of Christendom. One is the eternal conscious torment view, which St. Augustine popularized. And it's unfortunately, it's not true. And then there's the universalist view that everybody gets saved. And then the annihilationist view, which is what the Bible teaches. And so
here's the problem, Tim. You're gonna tell me that the Bible teaches that, and the people that believe those other things are gonna tell me that the Bible believes or teaches those things, which is why they believe those things. So it's like you all sound the same to me.
Right. I understand. My problem with my fellow Christian is that this makes God look insane, the eternal conscious torment view, because on one hand, we hold that God is love, but if you don't love him back and become a Christian, he's going to torment you for the rest of eternity. It makes the claim that God is love and God is good completely incoherent. And most Christians will not correct themselves. And this is unfortunate for Christians and for the non-Christian.
Okay, so your argument isn't that it isn't what the Bible says, is that it isn't consistent with your view of God, which is different than other Christians' views of God. Well, so again, you're just a different flavor of Christian.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to have our mind secured in the reality of the truth of what the Bible says about everything. And, hell is a big issue. What happens to the lost is really important. And, that, like I said, the idea that God's going to torment people for the rest of eternity is insane. It turns God into a cosmic sociopath that can never be satisfied but for the torture of his enemies when he commands us to love our enemies. It's just completely incoherent and it's stupid.
I agree with that. However, again, Eve already answered everything you're saying a minute ago when she said there are plenty of Christians out there who have not only a different view of hell, but a different view of God. And that like everything you're saying is just, yeah, but my version is this. And I agree with some of what you're saying about your version. And I agree that it is your version. But at the end of the day, it's just your version. There's over 40,000 different denominations of Christianity, many of which are incompatible with the others. So like you're calling here and saying Christians are blockheads, which is a wild thing to say as a Christian caller, and saying that all these other people are getting the Bible wrong and that actually it's this. And it's absolutely the only difference between you and every other caller that we get that says the exact same thing. You're not understanding the Bible. Other Christians aren't understanding the Bible. The Bible says this. The Bible says the only difference is you're giving us your version instead of some other person's version. There's no substantive difference in anything you've given us. There's no evidence for anything you're giving us. You're just saying, yeah, but my idea of God, my 40,001 version of God is a little bit different than the other 40,000.
I got you. Okay, so you want to hear one of the pieces of...
I'm more interested in what your evidence is for the existence of this God, whether this God sends people to hell or not.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to get there with the numerology. It's just one area, one slice of the pie that the Christian can plant his flag in as far as backing up their idea that
if you're just calling to share like
real.
One apologetic point that's not going to get us to why you believe in a God, I'm going to find that super uninteresting and maybe the wrong show, because maybe some Christians want this piece of information so they can piece together something. I'm really interested in like some solid, hey, God exists. I've got some massive pieces of evidence for that. If that's what you think this is, then let's go for it. But if we're going to get to the end of it and you're going to say, well, that was just one little thing and you have to hear everything else to weave this spider web, then that's less interesting. I really want to hear the answer to like, why do you believe that there is a God?
Right. Okay. Well, I come from, a certain way of thinking that I'm looking at the total evidence. I don't just have one thing, but I have a number of things. Can I just mention something to finish up the hell thing? If you were to combine the number of verses that supposedly back up the eternal conscious torment view and the universalist view together, if you were to total the number of verses there, they would be outnumbered by the verses that support annihilationism by about 20-1. So that's one reason I believe.
Why do Forrest
I don't think this hell exists, and I don't think the God
care.
exists, and I don't think the Bible is true. So, like, why are we talking about? I also like how you asked if you can continue, and then just started continuing before we would have said, like, can we please get to a point instead? But like, whatever, dude. Just why do you believe this God is real? What's the best evidence you have?
Okay. Well, I have a bunch of evidence. It's not just one thing. For instance,
give me the best one.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're all good as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I'll give you one piece of evidence that would support the idea or the belief that the Bible is true. 2,000 years ago, the Bible says Jesus was given a name above all names, right? It's right there in the New Testament. And 2,000 years ago, this proves true. Jesus Christ is the most famous person in all of history by far. And if you were to compare the amount of material.
Hold on real quick. Forrest has already got something to
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll let you finish your sentence. I appreciate that. I immediately have a problem with what you're saying. But go ahead. What are we talking about?
So let me finish, and then you can challenge what I have to say. Okay, so if you were to compare all the material that was written about Jesus Christ alone and all the famous people in the world, and combine all that's been written about them, it would be like comparing a sandcastle to a real castle. It's just, there's no question. So the Bible proves true in that it says that Jesus Christ was given the name above all names. And this is true. I mean, Jesus Christ is the most famous person in all of human history, and for good reason. And although this doesn't prove that Jesus was God, you would expect to see that.
So 3 major issues. Number one, you said Jesus has this name of all names. Jesus wasn't his name. It would have been like Yeshua or something. So like, because the letters didn't exist in that language at the time. So like, we have changed his name. And also, if you speak to someone who speaks Spanish, it's Jesus. So even with the same letters, the pronunciation is different. So you say he's got this name that's the most popular name, is all over the world. It's also changed quite a bit, as have the Gospels and the versions and translations of the book, as you have demonstrated here by giving us your version of your translation of the book that has been translated and changed and altered over the past 2,000 years. So, yeah, you've got a real popular name that is actually not the correct name and not the correct guy. Also, like, I'll let you start with that, because I've got two other major issues, and
well, and
address.
In the Bible, that's not. How are you reaching the conclusion that name above all names, that God meant you're going to be famous someday? Which, by the way, not while you're alive, but someday you're going to be famous. What made you reach that conclusion instead of the conclusion that in that verse, from what I remember, God was specifically talking about in heaven how his actual position in the hierarchy and his role was going to be that he's reached this status, this elevated status in heaven, in his kingdom. So how did you reach the conclusion that God was talking about on earth, that Jesus, but not really Jesus because it's a different name, is going to end up being a well-known historical figure? How did you reach that conclusion? Because we're already applying a lot here that we have no evidence for. But it's easy to do now looking back. It's easy to look at stuff that's happened and be like, oh, I can kind of fit that in with this little verse that isn't situation clear at all. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the verse says that Jesus Christ was given a name above all names. I don't think that it's a coincidence that Jesus is the most famous personage in all of human history. And if Jesus was God, then you would expect nothing less.
But he's a famous person. His name is not famous. His name is wrong, as it's been spread around the world. It's a different name. So if he has a name of all names, probably should have gotten the name right. Yeah?
Yeah, well, the Bible is translated into our English language around, 1500, and printed widely, and started printing the Bible in 1500 or something. So,
right.
So why didn't God say, English, hey, someday?
So Jesus'
so why
name
didn't
in
God
Greek
say, hey, Tim, why didn't God say someday? Why didn't he make it very clear and say, someday you are going to be a widely known historical figure. Everyone's going to have heard of you, not name above all names. Why did he say it in this way that is I'm looking at the verse now, and I see nothing that indicates that this is being spoken about as a future prophecy, and everything that's saying God is exalting him after his death, and now he's in heaven, and he's giving him this position. So it really, to anybody who doesn't believe what you believe, it just sounds like you believe this thing, and you're finding ways to fit it into this very vague text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that the text is vague. I think it says that
you
just
don't
what it says.
think that.
Jesus was, no, I don't think that it's a vague text.
So then I'm going to tell you what it means to me. Name above all names. That means that somewhere God took that name and wrote it and put it on whatever planet is farthest away from us. And so it is the name above all other names, because that's what it says. It literally says the name above all other names. So how are you right and not me?
Well, I don't know about other planets, Eve. I only know about planet Earth and humanity and the situation that we find ourselves in a fallen world where the
what makes you right?
Real.
What makes you right, Tim, in your interpretation of that verse, and me wrong? It's sorry that you don't know about other planets.
Okay, well, I don't know that for sure, that other planets don't exist, but the writer had something in mind, and I think it's one of those verses in the Bible that's unambiguous in that it just means what it says. That Jesus was given a name above all names.
If it means what it says,
and this turns out to be true. Would you argue with me?
Hey, Tim.
Let me ask you this, Eve.
No,
Tim,
this is not your show,
no,
Tim.
because you still haven't answered my question, so I'm about to mute you.
I'm not trying.
Cool. I'm going to mute you for just a second so I can get this out, because the delay makes us go back and forth, or you're interrupting me. I can't tell. So here's my problem. If we're going to literally take that verse, name above all names, which you're taking the English interpretation or translation and all that, then I'm more accurate than you are. That name is up in outer space somewhere above all other names. Tell me how that translation is less accurate than yours. You are unmuted now.
Okay. Am I on?
You are. So you can answer my question now.
Okay. Sorry, my phone beeped at me and it kind of distracted me. I don't want to ask you to repeat yourself. So
I can repeat it one time. So my question is,
ahead.
If we're saying that it's not an ambiguous verse, that it means what it says, my interpretation then would be that this name is literally above all other names and is somewhere in outer space, above all other names. We can even just say the sky if you don't believe in outer space. Whatever you believe in that's above other names. Why is your translation or your interpretation of that verse more accurate than mine, which is actually sticking to what it's literally saying, name above all names?
Well, I got your question and thank you. I think that it's just speaking of historical personages. That's my interpretation. And whether it's Aristotle or Moses. Yeah, you're saying why is your interpretation?
Not what she asked.
Well, I'm trying to answer it as best I can, and so
it would be great if you answered the question and not like what you're talking about, and just being the third co-host here. Like the people have actually put the Bible on top of Mount Everest. People have left crosses and Bibles and shit on top of Mount Everest. That is putting Jesus's name physically on this planet above all other names. Is that the fulfillment of the prophecy? That's Eve's translation of the verse, right? That's her interpretation, is that it is physically in a place above all other names. Is that right, or are you right? And if you think you're right, why is she wrong?
Yeah, well, I don't think that the apostle who wrote that, I think it was Paul, had that placing the Bible on top of Mount Everest and placing it Jesus' name above all names.
How do you know that?
You haven't answered our question. We can give you one more chance, and then it's probably time to move on.
I've still got 3 other questions from the original point, and we haven't gotten anywhere past this very simple question.
Well, I think that my point is clear. This verse is unambiguous. It means what it says. And whether it's Aristotle or Moses or Muhammad or any of these notable people in history, whether it's religious or from philosophy or any other place, Jesus's name is the most familiar name in the world.
You have made that point over and over again. We understand that you think that verse means that Jesus is famous. I threw out a hypothetical. How can it not, please let me finish. How can it not mean that Jesus's name isn't physically above all other names? And then in reality, if you examine the verse, what seems very self-evident to me in that verse is that it's God literally talking about Jesus's position in heaven as a deity. So I'm asking you, and this is kind of the last chance, and then we have other callers waiting that I hope will answer our questions. How do you know that what you believe about that verse is more accurate than what I believe about that verse?
Well, as a Bible believer, I think that the Bible is trying to communicate in a clear and coherent way. Now, there are problems with interpreting the Bible, and you're making my point. I mean, this relates to hell too, because Christians misread the Bible and misunderstand.
Holy
the
crap, Tim! Holy crap! It's so frustrating to hear you.
Another interpretation of that scripture. In my opinion,
it is so frustrating. It is so frustrating to hear you say. It is so frustrating to hear you say, "Here's my interpretation of scripture, and it's right." And Eve has kindly given you 2 other very reasonable interpretations of that scripture, one of which is facetious, one of which is not, both of which are completely reasonable. And you, rather than grappling with what she's saying, rather than even trying to think just 1 inch out of the box, are just waiting for your turn to speak so that you can repeat, "No, it means this because I think it means this, which means it means this." And we're like, "Well, how do you know it doesn't mean this?" "Well, because it means what I think it means, because it's what I think it means, and that means it means what I think it means." And we're getting nowhere. It would be awesome if you could at least have the decency to grapple with what she is saying and actually address her point. I still have a boatload of questions about the first thing you said, and we can't get past this because you can't even be honest about the conversation we're having. You just keep repeating yourself and waiting for your turn to talk.
But Tim, the question is, how does everyone listen determine whether you are correct about your interpretation or whether I am correct?
Okay.
What method would they use to determine
the Bible can be misinterpreted. That's the problem with hell, by the way. It's being misinterpreted.
You are misinterpreting it.
No, wait. Let me give you another example. Jesus said, what the Bible says, I can do all things.
Don't give us another example. Answer Eve's question. You have a question in front of you. No, you keep dodging to other things. How do you know that you are right and Eve is wrong? How do you know your interpretation is correct and hers is not?
I think that my reading of the text is a natural reading of the text. I'm not assuming that Jesus is living on other planets and that the Bible is not, Paul didn't mean to.
So then, Tim, is your answer that it's true because you think that?
The Bible on Mount Everest.
That's all you've said. I think I'm right. Okay. I have decided that I am right. That's what we got. Okay, it's true because I believe it's true.
Okay. No, I think that when people write letters to one another, they're trying to, communicate in a clear fashion. And you can make anything, you can take any Bible verse and twist it and come to ridiculous conclusions. And I think that's what you guys are trying to do. That's very true.
And how do we know that you aren't trying to do the same thing, Tim?
Okay. Well, let me give you an example. Okay. The scriptures say that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. What that definitely does not mean is that I can build a ladder to the moon.
Tim, I'm not interested in you telling us what you think each Bible verse means. I'm interested in you showing us your evidence that what you believe about these verses is factually true.
Well, it says that Jesus was given a name above all names.
Tim, Tim, how is anything that you're saying more than an opinion?
I'm sorry,
Tim,
say that again.
How do we determine if what you're saying is anything more than your opinion?
I think you have to use common sense and give the writer of the letter the benefit of the doubt that he was communicating.
Common sense would dictate that the word above is literal and not metaphorical. So when someone says above, they mean actually up, not metaphorically in perception. That's common sense to me. I think Eve's interpretation is better. I think that putting a Bible on Mount Everest is the fulfillment of that prophecy, and that's literally all it meant. Why am I wrong and you're right, Tim?
Well, I think that unfortunately we can misinterpret the Bible, and that's what's happening.
And you've just been saying the same thing
you are
over
misinterpreting
and over
the Bible.
Yeah.
No,
so Tim,
literally
here's the problem.
I think that my logic and my reasoning is sound here.
I think my logic and reasoning is sound, Tim. How do we know if I'm wrong? I think my logic and reasoning is sound, and unfortunately, people like you misinterpret the Bible. But at the end of the day, just like you misinterpreted about hell, it really is a place of fire and gnashing of teeth, like it says. You're misinterpreting the Bible. I'm right and you're wrong. How do we know the difference? How do we settle this?
Yeah, common sense. And for me, when it comes
my common
to hell,
sense dictates that I'm right and you're wrong. How do we know the difference?
Well, I don't know. I support your right to be wrong, if you will, but being wrong on these fundamental issues is highly consequential. And,
yes, that's why you're going to go to hell, Tim. You're going to go to hell because you're misinterpreting the Bible. And I'm trying to get you on the right path here. I'm trying to tell you what the Bible actually says because I'm using my common sense and a literal, plain reading of the text because I think that the people who wrote the text were being very plain. And it's very clear that when they say that hell is a place of fire and pain and gnashing of teeth, that's what they mean. And it's very clear that when they say that Jesus will have a name above all names, they literally mean it's physically above all names. It's very plain and clear in front of me. I'm reading the text directly. I'm using my common sense, and you're misinterpreting the Bible. And I support your right to be wrong, Tim, but at the end of the day, there's consequences for it, and that's why you're going to go to hell. How do we know which one of us is right? You have yet to answer the question. You just keep saying other dumb stuff on a loop and making excuses for not answering Eve's very simple question.
Yeah. Well, I don't think people go to hell because they misinterpret the Bible specifically. I think that they miss a right relationship with God because they refuse to become a Christian.
Hey, Tim,
23 minutes, Tim.
Yeah, I think this call has
minutes.
reached its end. I can give you one last chance because here's what we've asked you over and over again is basically, why should we believe you? Why should we believe you and not anybody else on the street who walks up and says, I think this, therefore it's true? Do you have an answer for us as to why we should believe you and what you're saying?
I would say that my point that Jesus is by far and away the most famous person in all of history proves my reading of the text.
Can I try a different one? Can I try one thing really quick?
Yeah, please, because that makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. We addressed that point, and your dishonesty is so frustrating. I really wanted to have a good call, and you will not be honest. I don't even think you're listening to us. I'm eager to hear what Forrest has to say, and then I'm very eager to move on from this call.
You just keep saying the same three things on repeat, dude.
Numerological evidence.
I don't give half a shit about the numerology.
Here,
Tim,
I muted him.
My numerology says that your numerology is wrong. And you can't tell me that I'm wrong because you refuse to address how do you know two things are different? How do you know one person's wrong and the other person isn't? You refuse to answer a simple question. So I'm going to give you a different question. We'll see if this gets anywhere. I'm going to give you literally just one opportunity to say anything else besides, well, some people misinterpret scripture. Well, I believe that the Bible says, I think that the just address this or don't. I really don't care. It's been 25 minutes and I'm bored as shit, Tim. You said that your best evidence for the God being real is that Jesus is super widespread and popular. He's the most famous person in the world, above Aristotle and above Muhammad and blah, 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 blah. How do you think that happened, Tim? Do you think that was spread? Do you think that this just Jesus being so spread happened because the Bible is true? Or do you think it happened because the people who believed in the Bible genocided their way across the entire planet, raping, pillaging, murdering countless people of countless civilizations, forcing them to convert against the pain of death? Do you think that the conquest and crusade of Christianity over the past 2,000 years has more to do with the spread of the religion? Or do you think that it's just because it's a prophecy of the Bible? That is my question to you, Tim.
Well, I think that the supernatural spread of Christianity is due to the fact that Jesus really was and is God.
So you just completely ignored everything that Forrest said because Forrest wasn't talking about... Cool, I'll mute you again and then probably just end the call. Forrest just addressed a very real thing that happened. Nothing supernatural about the Crusades. Unfortunately, it was an actual thing that happened and actual people died. And those sorts of genocides continue to happen throughout history because of Christianity. So I don't know. Do I unmute him or are we done with this call? Because
flip, dude. You're in the driver's seat today.
Oh, let's see.
The show's gone
Tim,
woke and put a woman in charge. We got to decide what you're gonna do.
Do you want to respond to Forrest's commentary that he actually said, or are you just going to talk about supernatural stuff?
I do want to respond. Okay.
And then we've got another theist.
Okay. Thanks for your time. I would say that the people that we're supposed to look to is Jesus himself and his disciples. And they didn't go around killing people. They themselves were martyred for their testimony.
That's
that
not
Jesus
answering Forrest's question. Forrest's question is, do you think Jesus is famous because you think the Bible said that? Or do you think maybe Jesus is well known because people had to die or if they didn't convert?
No.
Colonialism or magic? Which one do you think is real, Tim?
Well, you keep interrupting me. Can I make my point, please?
Are you gonna make one?
I think that Jesus is God, and the people who
no one's surprised
wrote the Bible were all martyred and killed for their testimony that Christ raised himself from the grave.
Tim, you're not answering the question.
And also, millions of indigenous people around the world were martyred for that testimony as well.
Well, I'm not sure who you're referring to there, but I do know
Muslims
about the
die Muslims die for their faith all the time too. So we're already getting so off track.
You aren't sure who I'm talking about when I say that millions of indigenous people around the world were killed by Christians who were either forcing them to convert or just killing them. You don't know what I'm talking about there?
Well, all I can say about that is that if anybody kills their neighbor for not becoming a Christian, they're not followers of Jesus.
Okay.
So then the question remains, do you think that because that happened, right? We agree that happened, right? I don't care if you think they were good Christians. We agree that happened, right?
You mean the Crusades?
Among other things? That's a yes or no question, Tim. That's a yes or no question, Tim.
We're not supposed to, there's nowhere in the Bible.
That's a yes or no question, Tim.
Okay, Tim.
That is a yes or no question, Tim.
I think.
We're not getting
it. We're not getting yes or no. So, hey, Tim.
Nothing.
I don't know if you've just been intentionally dishonest this entire time. I don't know what it is. Please go back and listen to this call and hear how frustrating it is that we didn't get a single answer from you this entire time. If you want to call back, maybe even tonight, I don't know if Forrest wants to talk to you again with your whole thing about numerology. There's other shows you can call sometime. But I need you to go back and listen to how you didn't answer any of our questions and you deflected and you brought up other things. Thanks for calling in. This didn't go anywhere and I remain very unconvinced. But good luck. Listen to the call before you call back again.
Literally 30 minutes and we can't even answer a yes or no question. Did Christians kill non-Christians? Yes or no? And well, I mean, when you read the Bible, did it happen? Yes or no? Well, I think my interpretation, yes or no? Well, I mean, the thing about Christianity is it just fucking answer a question, Tim.
I don't know that he was listening to us at all.
It was not. He was not.
Dishonesty was happening, but also sometimes I just think he had something else written down or lined up. There was zero. That was so frustrating. I was really excited to have a theist
I had
caller.
so many other questions.
I know. If he was actually answering stuff, it would have been interesting. But we do have another theist caller. Maybe they're going to actually answer some of our questions. Let's find out. Let's talk to Harrison. Hey, I can't talk. Hey, Harrison, you are on the line with Eve and Forrest. What did you want to talk to us about today? Hello? Oh, my fault. There we go. Maybe.
Right.
I clicked it 4 times. Okay, there we go. Hi, Harrison. Sorry about that. How are you?
Greetings. How are you? I'm good.
We're all right. We're hoping that you will actually, answer whatever questions we end up having for you. But what did you want to talk about?
I thought you guys wanted to talk about God.
I do.
Well, we'd like to hear what God you believe in and why.
There's only one God, so I believe in that
God. Which
God
do you believe in?
There's only one.
Oh, Allah. Okay, let's talk about Allah.
Yeah.
Or maybe you mean Zeus, which Zeus would be cool to talk about too, actually. That one's
I would be down to talk about Zeus.
Let's talk about Zeus. Okay, let's talk about Zeus.
2 different names for the same God, so I don't know. You're confused.
Zeus. Okay, cool. So you believe in Zeus. Why do you believe in Zeus?
Well, did you ever believe in Zeus?
No, I did not.
We're not talking about us. We're talking about you. Why do you believe in Zeus?
But I'm asking you a question. Did you ever believe in Zeus?
No, not really. No. I had some thoughts about Quetzalcoatl, though. Quetzalcoatl is the one true God, after all. Why do you believe in Quetzalcoatl?
There's only one God, so I don't know why you're using a bunch of different names. But...
No, Quetzalcoatl is the one God, for sure.
Okay, so why don't you just call him God?
Why would I call my chair?
It's important to Harrison, there are certain gods that claim that there are multiple gods. There are gods that claim there are no other gods and they're the only God, and that will go in direct conflict with whatever God you potentially believe in. We didn't ask you that as some kind of troll thing. Now we're trolling you. But when you don't answer a very basic question like which God is it that you believe in? If you don't know how to answer that, you can say you only believe in one God. Which God is it that you believe exists? This is not different.
God.
Is it the Christian God? Is it the Hindu God? Is it the Muslim God? Is it the Aztec God? Is it the ancient Greek or ancient North God? Which God is it?
So you believe in all of those gods.
One God.
So you believe in all of those gods.
Have you never read the commandments? The first commandment is that you should love God. There's only one God.
Why would you care about the commandments? That's a different God. That's Yahweh.
That's what God said. Those are the commandments from God.
Which version of the commandments?
There's another
there's
God
3
that
different
says
versions of them.
Yeah, and there's another God that says that Yahweh is not God.
Commandments shared between all of them. There's only one God. God is love, and you should worship nothing else but God.
Wait, why are you giving God a different name? Why are you calling him love if it's just God? Why does she have a different name now?
I'm confused. You really don't understand that God is love?
Well, that's what I'm saying. A second ago, we called God Zeus and Quetzalcoatl, and you said there's only one God. Why are you giving him all these different names? I'm wondering why you're now giving God this new name of love. I thought it was just God.
God is the source of love. If you don't know the difference between love and God, well, hey, that's your problem.
The source of love or love itself. Which is which?
Do you really need to differentiate that?
Yeah. I mean,
Why?
dude. I don't understand. It's if you have like the my car is not made of carbon emissions, but it is the source of carbon emissions.
I don't think your car is a source of carbon emissions. Carbon being in the atmosphere is a carbon emission.
Can you give me any reason to believe you're not just a troll caller? Can you just answer a question
Oh,
for
I'm
us?
convinced that it is.
Yeah.
What's a troll caller? You guys wanted to talk about God. You invited us to call in and talk about God, so I called in.
No, we actually specified. We said to call in and tell us what God you believe in and why. You haven't told us what God you believe in. Do you want to tell us why?
There's only one God. I can only believe in God or not believe in God.
Cool. Do you want to tell us why before I drop the call?
Tell you why what?
Why you believe in this God.
Okay, well, I need to figure out some contextual problems here. If you never believed in God, then there's a different approach than if you did believe in God and lost your faith.
You just need to tell us why you believe in this God. There's no context here other than we're asking you a question.
I don't know why. I just do.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for calling, Harrison.
That's the first honest thing you've said. You just do, because who cares, right?
I'm done with the troll call. Okay.
What's frustrating is that Harrison, did you already drop him?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. If he's listening, it's frustrating because he had an opportunity to actually be a funny troll. Like he could have done something that would have rallied. Like there were so many opportunities.
I want to, after Tim, then I was like, please, let's have like a real conversation with a real theist that wants to be serious. And if you guys believe this stuff so wholeheartedly, if you truly care about Forrest and I knowing what is truth, then call us and tell us and lots of other people what this truth is and what a good reason to believe it is. That's all we're asking. It seems to be asking so much.
Yeah, it is one thing. Like if you really believe in this deity, if you really believe that this whole thing is real, then like I just checked, we've got 2,500 people watching this show at this moment. Even if you think that we are just confrontational, we're lost causes, we're just looking for reasons to disagree and blah, 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 you could change the lives and save the souls of 2,500 people watching live. We get tens of thousands of views on this show after it's already done, after it's aired. We get people coming back and watching it after. This will probably be clipped on this channel because we're big stupid atheists and we don't know, and we're just going to clip it and we're going to spread the gospel more. This is your chance to really make a difference. And instead, you call and don't want to grapple with the reality that there's options.
Yeah, and you let trolls call in instead and make everything look so much worse for you guys. Maybe call and actually, and it's not like we haven't had cool conversations. Nobody's proved to God yet, but Forrest and I have talked to people and actually had an exchange of ideas and heard different things. You don't have to be this person that gets clipped like that if you answer the goddamn questions. Anyways.
Anything.
Well, the lines are open. We have time for a little bit, maybe another call or two. 720-619-2288. And we do have a couple of atheist callers. Let's talk to, I think it's Aliyah. I hope I'm saying that right. Hey there, you're on
It's
with
Aaliyah.
Forrest and E. Aaliyah, thank you. That was my next question is how do I say your name correctly? Aaliyah. Hey,
Yeah,
Aaliyah.
it's Aaliyah. It's so nice to
How
talk
are
to
you?
you guys. I've become like a new, like, viewer and watcher of this stuff. And my question was like, how do you deal with like hateful thoughts towards Christians? Because like, or like towards religious people who have harmful beliefs.
Yeah. Well, after those calls, don't we seem like we just have so many lovely thoughts? No. I think, for me, it's really personal because my family is still extremely religious. And I have to confront that tension of, the activism that I do, having very strong feelings about specifically evangelicalism in the US. And I have learned how to compartmentalize my feeling toward the general problem of, theism or toward evangelicalism and all of that. And then when it comes to individuals, I treat it very differently because I think it is different. And I remember that I used to be one of them. So that's one of the most helpful things. And I tell some of my friends that they've been atheists their whole life. I'm like, please remember that used to be me. I used to be so deep in it. Not that long ago. I looked the same. I talked the same. I just believed these wild, harmful things. And I was being actively harmed by it. And so I think it's just maintaining that compassion and empathy and prioritizing my value of humanity over my passionate feelings against these harmful things. The reason I am so passionate against evangelicalism is because it's harming the people that are in it. So it would be really hypocritical of me to have hate for the people that I actively want to be free from that. I don't know if that is answering your question at all, but
I think it's a great answer.
I can understand that, and that's kind of what my rationale is for that. But the thing that is keeping me from getting away from this is if these people have shown themselves historically and proved themselves over and over to be threats over and over again, why would it be wrong in like what would it be? How would it be unjustified for me to assume that these people are going to have harmful beliefs and not like them and like stay away from them and like have negative?
I think
views
that's
towards
totally
them because
fine.
of
There's nothing. That's fine.
straight up.
There's a big difference between being reasonably cautious and being hateful. And so like if you're calling in as using they them pronouns, so I'm going to assume you're probably a non-binary person. Like, yeah, Christians have been historically harmful to your group. They absolutely have, and they continue to be so in a lot of ways. There are also a lot of Christians out there.
I am literally every group under the sun. I'm Black. I'm in the South. I was adopted. Like, I'm autistic. Like, I have like all these other
You're all
problems
over.
I could be worrying about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
So, like,
every right to be pissed.
Yeah. And so like you've got this like huge amount of like historical trauma and personal trauma to parse through when you're trying to deal with these people. But it's important to remember that these people are just people. And that they have been abused. They have been lied to. They have been made to fear something that isn't real. They have been made to twist love to include the possibility of eternal damnation and threats of violence. They have been made to gloss over the horrors of history in order to try to beautify their own belief system. There's a lot going on there that has happened to them. And then because of that twisted worldview they're coming from, they're passing that hate on to you, thinking that they're doing something very kind. So having compassion for that is important. But so is self-preservation. And so is giving your own heart and your own mind the space that it needs to be frustrated and to grieve and to be aggravated and to be scared, which are all totally justifiable reactions considering your position. So, yeah, I think there's a big difference between hate and caution, and knowing that these people can and possibly will, like maybe even depending on the sect of Christianity they're in and where in the country they're in and what political party they're in, likely will want you to be harmed, even if they believe that it's for your own good and it's actually a loving, sweet, kind thing. That's part of the horror of it all. And protecting yourself and protecting your best interest is totally reasonable and does not require hateful thoughts towards Christians.
Okay, I can understand that. But I'm just saying, like, it's kind of hard to see. It's like, I can understand you being in a position and being a victim. But I think I guess I'm asking, like, how can I make it easier for me to empathize with these people when I basically right off the get-go, like, I just realized, like, I don't believe any of this shit. Like, for me, I was autistic. I was just like, I thought it was just like any other thing. I thought I just needed to, like, blend in, and we were all just, like, playing pretend or something. Or it was just, like, something fun for us to do, and I would just, like, go to church with my friends on the weekends, and they'd speak all the nonsense. I'd be like, oh, those are funny stories, and I'd go home. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, how should I look at it more? Because I think that you can be a victim and also be like them being the victim and also them being part of the problem. Like, I guess I don't know where to, like, draw the line and how I should draw the line.
Yeah.
I think
of,
you
like,
have to
how
pick...
much I should.
You go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, continue.
No. I was just babbling. You probably have something more important to say.
No, not at all. I think you just have to, figure out what serves you best, because if hanging on to like, if it's harming your life to just feel actively hateful and angry and upset, then yeah, that's something for your sake you can go take and work on and sit down with a professional, so that it's not taking up your time and your emotions when you could be experiencing more positive emotions in the place of those things. What I've learned to do with the help of a therapist is, well, I've worked really hard to be able to hold those emotions and hold that anger and hold that rage and hold that part of me that wants justice, and I want things to be corrected and all of that. I can hold that now and hold empathy and compassion when necessary, and also just hold space for myself, and to not have any of that get in the way of just me living my life and being able to experience things that bring me joy. So, for me, and sorry, this is, like, such a vague, like, maybe not instantly helpful answer. Sitting down with a therapist really helped me. And being able to talk to somebody and go through really just some, like, somatic therapy too, of, like, just getting my body in check so that things didn't raise such a, I have a lot of anxiety. So that way it doesn't raise this response in my body when people take their religious shit out on me. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but
yeah, it makes sense. I just want to say one last thing, because I don't want to take up too much time. Probably other callers are on the line that they've been waiting.
You're fine.
Like, how do I say this? I just, like, yes, I understand, like, they're in my room, like, thinking about these people, like, all day long and rocking back and forth. But I don't know, what sparked this for me was a conversation I literally had, I just had the other day, and these people will literally, like, justify, like, things like rape and child rape, even if they are, like, victims of that thing themselves. And it's so, I don't know, like, I guess I'm just conflicted because it's so sad and disappointing, and also, like, I want to help these people at the same time.
You know what? First of all, that's an awesome point to bring up. That's actually going to be probably the next call we take is going to talk about that. Looking at what I'm seeing there on the thing. But also, I just want to point out, like, I think it's reasonable to give the people in your life the opportunity to meet you where you're at and say, hey, your religion is very hurtful to me. Not only the historical context, what it has done to people like me over the past several hundred years, especially, but also even today, what it is espousing to do to people like me. So I love and respect you so much that I am now going to give you the opportunity to have this difficult conversation with me and tell me, are you willing to move away from that part of your belief system, denounce the people who have done things like that, to assure me that you are not a part of that hate group and that you're actually just holding on to this belief for whatever other reason. I don't care. It's not my business, not my problem. But I have to know that you don't think that because of the curse of Ham, I deserve to be enslaved. I need to know that you don't think because of the Adam and Eve story, I don't deserve to be who I am. I need to know that you don't think that because of the stories in the Bible and because of the way the Bible has been used, that I, as a neurodivergent person or a genderqueer person, don't deserve to be burned at the stake or ostracized from society or forced to convert to whatever you want. I need to know that you love and respect me as a person enough to not believe in that shit. And if you can't do that, then I don't need to be friends with you, and I'm sorry. And give them the opportunity to own up to that, to denounce it, to walk away from it. And if they don't want to, then that's fine. They don't have to, but they also don't have to be in your life. That's what I would recommend.
Yep. 100%.
You guys are so right. I appreciate the thing. If I could just leave with one last note, is if you guys could, I haven't really heard very many people talking about this, but there has been a lynching of a young black man in North Carolina very recently. And if you guys could just check that out or say something.
And the sheriff's office was trying to say that he lynched himself, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fucking insane.
So if you guys could just be talking about that, since those things are happening. I'm in the Bible Belt. Like I'm very deep in there. You know, I'm with Southern Baptists and people who are very devout. So if you
I've been reposting on TikTok.
Anything about that, that would be lovely. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up. I've been reposting on TikTok. I'm doing my best to share other people who know more about it than I would do, because it's in the news and that's low for me. But like, no, I understand exactly what you're talking about, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
No,
Thanks so much for calling.
So much. Thank you guys. No, you guys have a great day.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Back to some nice colors. On that note, we do have another theist that called in. So
maybe it'll be nice.
What it says, I'm going to already have to
Maybe they're friendly.
Correct this, because this is not the talking point either.
It's rough. It's rough. What it says on the call screen is rough.
Yep. Hey, Edmund, you're on with Eve and Forrest. How are you today?
Good, and you?
I'm doing
Never
well.
had a bad day.
So I'm seeing it says the call screener put that you want to explain what you think God's plan is. And this is not really the platform for you to just like tell us what you think God's plan is. However, if you want to tell us what God you believe has a plan and why you think that God exists, then we'd love to hear it.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think that, regardless of what you say, your platform's my platform. You got a bunch of feds all over your ass right now.
Cool.
But God's
be done with it.
Goodbye.
The second we started with, I'll tell you this, I'm like, it's over.
Yeah, it's over. God, that's so frustrating. Theists, are you guys listening to this? Surely one of you out there has something better. Oh, we have another theist caller. This is not looking good for theists today, you guys. Not even close.
It sucks. This is the best you can bring out is a bunch of lazy trolls.
Great. Hey, CD, how
You're
are
pushing
you?
people away from your God.
Hey.
You're on.
Okay. Good. I'm talking with my friend here. We've dialogued considerably, or at least I have a bit on I enjoy your columns and your statements, and I went to...
Are you talking to me or Forrest?
I'm talking to you. I went to Emory University for my seminary theological training, and I looked for disappearing black children at that time, early 80s, and I had an atheistic professor
in Atlanta.
in seminary. In Atlanta, one of my favorite cities. Also, and your partner is from Austin, another one of my favorite cities. I spent some considerable time there as a community organizer.
Who are we talking about?
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Forrest. Are you in Austin, Texas?
Nope.
I thought you were. No, that. Well,
I visited Austin recently.
Community. I know there's a considerable atheistic contingent in Austin, and I lived there for a number of years before I lost my mind and moved to Houston and got married. But love the city, loved Austin. No, seriously, I love Houston. Houston's a great place. Really enjoy it.
Sure.
Well,
But
CD,
anyway,
what do you want to talk to us about? Because
about?
we're nearing the end of the show, so I want to make sure we can get a real conversation with you.
I can really, really, really relate to everything that Eve states with the problem of evil, which is also known as theodicy. And I keep hearing the term church hurt, and that hits me very, very hard. And it's very emotional for me as a pastor because it really strikes at the guts of what I believe as a Christian pastor, that God is love. Anyway,
so you believe in the Christian God.
Okay. Yes.
Why do you believe that this God exists?
Okay. My argument, and again, I'm very skittish of the words evidence and proof. I don't think there are proofs of the resurrection.
I would be too if I was a pastor.
Well, I don't know about proofs of the resurrection or proofs of God. They are compelling arguments. Bertrand Russell, one of our greatest logicians ever, he wrote some very great statements about why he was not a Christian. And I think every Christian should read his essay. And he debunks all of the arguments for the existence of God. I think there's some great arguments for the existence of God, and they're great arguments against God's existence.
What's yours?
What's the
best argument you have?
Stuck with you?
Mine, okay. My argument is the argument, I would say, of semiotic. That is, a sign or symbol. As Charles Sanders Peirce believed, that everything can be a sign. I think the history of the Christian church is one of, I would say, rather radical connectedness with such different authorship on different continents. And I know a lot of atheists and unbelievers are fond of talking about all the contradictions in the Bible and the various differences of the writers. But I see, with that in mind, it's very striking that they seem to agree more than they disagree. I just find that a striking thing. And that church, to use a word from the theologian Karl Barth, all of these things witness or attest to. I feel you, Eve, about how dirty the word evangelical has become, and also the word witness. But in the Greek, the word witness actually means a legal term. So I believe in the Christian God or Christianity because of all of the witnesses, the myriad witness of church history.
Do you also believe in Islam because of all of the witnesses and the fact that, like, Islam is actually a little bit more concise? You don't have the problem of the mistranslations and the different versions and all the contradictions, because they pass it down like you have to memorize it. It's very strict. So, like, millions and millions of witnesses all over the world.
Not only do you have to memorize it, but you have to speak it in Arabic, according to some Muslims. And some of my best friends are atheists, and some of my best friends are Muslims. In fact, I'm wearing a shirt right now from a local Muslim politician who ran for an office that I politic for. But anyway,
But CD, does a lot of people believing something make it true?
Many people said Heil Hitler and said basically Hitler is God. They bestowed belief upon Hitler, and I would say absolutely not.
Right. So why do you do it differently?
So then why are you
God?
There are, like I said, there's some great arguments against Christian. My atheistic professor, I had this same argument with him in class in the early 80s. But I'm answering your question.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, like, CD, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You sound like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're trying to just have a casual conversation with us. And unfortunately, that isn't what we can do on the show. We have a limited amount of time. So like what we're trying to ask you is you said that you think the best evidence for God, or some of the best evidence for your God, is how many people believe in it. There's so many witnesses that are all saying roughly the same thing, even though there are minor differences. Lots and lots and lots of people all over the world and all throughout time are saying the same thing. And we're presenting to you that there are other religions that also can make that claim. And you even pointed out that there's evil in the world, people like Hitler, who you can also make that same claim about them as well. So why are you having a different set of rules and a different set of criteria for your God than you do for anything else? Why is your God special?
My God is special, and the Christian God I believe in for the witness of Scripture, the Quran. And our scriptures are not always parallel. I think it's striking, and more study should be done on the similarities of the two, but they are different. I don't find that God is love so much in the Quran. I think that's a distinctive emphasis.
So it sounds like
the Christian.
It sounds like you are, even though Islam and Nazism can make the exact same claims that you're making, you are choosing to believe in this thing and not those things because you just like this thing better.
I think that Nazism was predicated upon a lie. It was not.
And I think Christianity is predicated on a lie.
Okay. That is where we differ. I'd be
right. So
that's what I'm asking.
How do we determine truth? Like, how do we know what's true or not?
I think we know what's true. Well, I'm, as I said, a Wesleyan. With John Wesley, the witness, Scripture, tradition, reason, and experience. Wesley being a product not only of the Reformation, but the Renaissance. Spoke 7 languages and had quite an
I'm familiar, but I'm asking why you are convinced. Are you just saying, well, I trust Wesleyan, so I'm going to go with that? Or no, but why are you personally convinced that there is a God?
I'm personally convinced of the truth of God. God is love, most especially, I would say, from my work, and I will be going into a prison soon. I'll be going into a jail to do prison ministry. And 2 things real quick. I'm struck by how much I have in common with the incarcerated. Not that I'm any better than they are, far from it. But
I appreciate you're a pastor and
you're the differences.
CD, I appreciate that you're used to preaching, but that's not what this platform is for. We're really trying to engage in an actual conversation with you and talk to you. Again, like Forrest said, you sound like a kind person, and I appreciate that. But let's get down to the goal, which is to determine how it is, how you reach the conclusion.
Felons, the change that I see over a weekend with felons is probably about the most convincing and compelling proof that I have for the Christian God. And for
what about
Jesus
the people in prison who become Muslims and have a major
experience that same change?
I know many of them, and they are personal friends. And I've heard Eve say this on her platform. So what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I haven't a clue as to their
eternal
destiny.
Is it also, just out of curiosity, do you think that a person who is incarcerated and is dealing with a lot of problems of like guilt and shame and being punished and everything might be really attracted to a gospel about forgiveness and liberation and the breaking of chains and things like that, and might make an irrational decision to join into it, even if there isn't a good reason to?
And maybe when someone as kind as you goes in and actually talks to them and makes them feel human for a moment, they're like, well, to hell with it. I'll believe whatever this guy believes because he's being so kind.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're just kind and it has nothing to do with what you're sharing with them. What's the difference between you being kind and then a Muslim going in and being equally kind and persuading another person, and they change their life for this Muslim belief now? What's the difference?
I could not say.
Well, I appreciate you being honest,
Yeah.
because that's the problem that we get to at the end of these conversations.
Yeah, that's the issue there, CD, is that it really is arbitrary. And at the end of the day,
I have great
we don't
friends.
care. I'm glad you do. I do as well. But what I'm saying is, I don't care if a belief is useful. I don't care if a belief makes you feel good. I don't care if a belief improves somebody's life. I don't care if a belief helps with addiction. I don't care if a belief got somebody out of prison. I don't care about any of that. I care about whether or not it's true. And so we have here the story of Christianity, and I can appreciate that you're saying it helps a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't think it's true, though. So that's my. If I went into a prison and taught people about the Easter Bunny, and they decided to all be better so that they could get chocolate eggs one day, that doesn't really say anything about whether or not the belief is true.
Well, to address your question, I do have a YouTube channel called Truth Matters, a bunch of videos I try to keep under 5 minutes, entertaining various theological.
Plug your channel, bro.
Anyway,
that's great. But we're trying. We still have had this conversation with you for 12 minutes now, and we still don't know why you are convinced that a God exists, other than you just are. And thank you for being honest. That's great. I think that's probably the truth. You just believe it. If I had to guess, you probably grew up in a place that the majority of people around you are religious. And like you said, you now have this confirmation bias of the people around you. You go into prison ministry, you see things conform to your reality because that is how your life plays out. I mean, you're living in Texas. So, I appreciate you calling. Forrest, do you have any more questions?
No, I don't. I don't think we've gotten anywhere in 13 minutes, CD. We haven't actually said why you believe what you believe.
I think confirmation bias is kind of along the lines I suggested. I feel that confirmation blessing is a blessing. Confirmation bias, or
is it a blessing when Nazis have confirmation bias that makes them be like, yes, I'm doing the right thing?
Since Nazi, as we said, was not true and evil, then absolutely not.
But people experience confirmation bias across all belief systems. So there's nothing special about a Christian experiencing confirmation bias, just like there's nothing special about an atheist experiencing confirmation bias about whatever, just like there's nothing special about a Muslim experiencing confirmation bias. So that's the point we're left at here, is that you haven't given us a reason why you have reason to believe what you believe more than anybody else has to believe in the God that they believe in.
I agree 100% with what Forrest said, that regardless of utilitarian benefit of a belief should be taken very seriously on the merit of whether or not it is true. And I believe the scriptures and church tradition, for the most part, are true.
Why?
We know you believe that, but we're trying to understand why you believe that.
I just I don't know how you prove that it's true. I think it is true in the same sense that I believe in the multiplication table. I don't know.
Let me ask you. Well, yeah, but the multiplication tables can actually be proven. CD, let me ask you a different question. Let me just ask you one last thing, and then I'm good to move on. Like, does it matter to you? Does it matter to you whether or not the things that you believe in are true?
It matters very much so. Yes.
Okay.
I would say so.
So then, how would you go about checking if something is true or not? What matters for that?
Well, here I can be accused of circular reasoning, which I'm perfectly good with. I think even science can be guilty of that, of circular reasoning, according to philosopher von Frosten.
I would love it if you could just actually answer the question, CD. CD, just answer the question, because
it only describes.
Yes, I agree, but like that's not the point.
Why? Yeah. I think Christianity is true. I believe it's true from the scripture tradition, reason, and experience. Those four, I don't think I'm hard-pressed to improve upon those.
So experience is anecdotal evidence. Experience is anecdotal evidence. Means we don't use it when we try to convince people. The scripture has been proven to be unreliable, so we can't use that either. Let's focus on reason. What is the reason that you believe in what you believe?
Logically, I think it passes muster logically. Reason, the experience, that is anecdotal evidence, as you say, but there's people far better than myself who have attested that word again to Christianity's reasonableness. Justin Martyr.
There are really good people out there who have been Muslims, and there are really good people out there who have been atheists. And you already said a minute ago that it's completely arbitrary. You have no reason to distinguish between any of them. So I'm asking you, why should we believe in what you believe as opposed to any other belief or lack of belief? Why can't we just continue to be atheists and continue to be good people and continue any other utilitarian thing? I can help lots of people. I have helped lots of people as an atheist. So, why do I need to believe your thing? Why is your thing real? How do I go about determining whether or not your thing is real?
I think that church, for all of its hurt and for all of its shortcomings, it gets me through. John Lennon, whatever gets you through the night, well,
okay, but that's still a utilitarian explanation. Yeah. That's still a utility.
That's right.
That's not actually true. If hugging your teddy bear gets you through the night, that doesn't mean your teddy bear is a real living thing. So I'm asking you, you said you care about whether or not what you believe is true. I'm asking you, how do we find out whether or not what you believe is actually true? And all you've given me so far is, experience, which doesn't count. You said scripture, which doesn't work. And you said logic. And I asked you to explain the logic, and you've yet to do so. So I'm trying to understand, if you care about what you believe being true, and you think Christianity is true, and the Bible is unreliable, and we can't go by anecdotal evidence because you and I should be able to agree that's illogical, right? So what is the actual reason for believing in this thing? I care about evidence. I care about reason. Give me some.
Okay. Again, proof and evidence are slippery words that don't always work in court, but the testimony of Christians down through the ages and my work and what I will do in the prisons in the coming weeks ahead, I'll preach in a prison here.
And we're back around.
We're back to where we started, and I think this is a good place to end it. But I think, again, I just keep saying this to theist callers, go back and listen to this. I do appreciate that you gave us, I think, the most honest answers that we got today, and I sincerely appreciate
Thank you
so much.
Well, some of my best friends are atheists.
That is great. I love that you are having friends that don't think exactly how you think. I think that's a good thing. But maybe even some of those best friends, it could be something fun to do. Go listen to this call together, and maybe they can point you in some of the directions of what we were trying to say. But yeah, thank you for calling, CD. Wish you the best and appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you for taking it.
Good night.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
I hope CD knows I don't have anything against him as a person. It's very frustrating to continue on the circle of I believe it because it does good things. Okay, does that mean that it's true? No. Well, how do you know it's true? Well, because it does good things. Does doing good things mean that it's true? No, of course not. Can Muslims do good things? Yes. What's the difference? There is no difference. So how do you know yours is true? Well, it does good things. And it's like, dude, come on.
He's so close. And I think that's what makes me sad is people like that who sound good-hearted. He was respectful and even toward me, which we see that's a problem oftentimes.
That's pretty dope.
And it's like you're so close to figuring out that you don't need any of that stuff. And then I think one of the most honest things he said was when he said, well, church is what, he's a pastor. What would he do? What would he do if he didn't have that, if he didn't have prison ministry? Well, that's the exciting thing. What would you do if you didn't have those things? Imagine if you're not being held within those four walls and within, prison ministry. What if you can actually go and not have an agenda when you're being kind to these people that are going through something? What if you can have a more helpful agenda, that doesn't require you to get them to align with your beliefs? Anyways, that's what's sad to me.
He might just be dug in too deep. He's committed so much to this, he loses livelihood. Like it's at this point, he sounded like an older guy, maybe, and so like maybe just by this point he's just sunk so much into it. He's mired in that sunk cost fallacy of just like, I can't give up now. I've already believed this thing. I've changed so many lives with this thing. It's like, yeah, but dude, come on. Like,
the chat is going crazy because of you and those scissors, which I didn't even notice that you're just like,
they're not even scissors.
Waving scissors around. I'm just like so distracted by the lack of good conversation.
These are mosquito-nosed hemostats, y'all. And they're just a fidget that I have. They're clean. They're not ones that I use for dissection. These are just clean hemostats that I just keep
hanging out
over here because they're fun to play with. They're clicky and they're stretchy. And when you click them together, how good is that, right? Listen to that.
That's nice.
It's a little
That's
crunchy
some
noise,
really good ASMR.
Good.
That's real nice.
And Jesse Jerdak is in the chat. Jesse Jerdak's a great guy. Jesse Jerdak is
I haven't done a show with Jesse yet.
You should. He's a genuinely good dude. Genuinely good. Like one of the nicest people I've actually ever met.
That's what I keep hearing. All these nice things.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Jesse, the genuinely nice dude.
Helped me raise over $25,000 for Doctors Without Borders on this crazy show called Roll Your Initiative, which people should totally go check out and donate to.
An effective, nice dude. Amazing.
An effectively nice guy.
That's so great. Well, we've got 2 callers to get through, and then that ends our show. However, just a reminder, you can keep hanging out with Forrest and Aron Adair tonight on the 80 show starting at, is that 7 Central Time or is that 6 Central Time? Who knows?
I think it's 7. I don't know. I'll be here at some point.
7 Central.
Thank you.
It is 7 Central, said the voice in my ear.
Amazing. All right. Well, let's get to these callers. We've got... Poor Justin has been hanging on this whole time for, 3 hours. I'm so sorry. We have to prioritize. Yeah, right. That would be so sad. We have to prioritize the relevant calls about, not that this isn't completely irrelevant, but, the religious and the theist callers. What's up, Justin? How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Hello.
What do you want to talk about tonight? Almost tonight, afternoon, whatever it is.
Yeah, I just saw stories about HB 1775 and the lawsuit there. More traction.
Yeah.
And Forrest had any information or any to keep that going?
Yeah, I don't have any information on the new. I hear there is a lawsuit or something going on now. I don't know anything about it. I know that bill was from back. It was a few years ago, and it's an anti-CRT. Yeah, it's an anti-CRT bill. And when you actually read the language of the bill, it's pretty plain. Like it's the kind of stuff that's passed in order to be so obvious. Like you should totally pass this. It's like. It bans the teaching of anything which would imply that one race or sex is superior to another, or imply that anyone should feel bad about their race or sex, or imply that or teach that any race or sex it has any advantages or disadvantages or whatever. But then as you get to the end of it, it's like, and also you can't teach like any like I forgot exactly how it's worded. Someone should go check it. But like it's like also you can't teach like any that there has ever been any circumstances in which or like anything about the world today that would be that set up in such a way that one race or sex is benefited. There's nothing you can't teach. There's anything about the world today that was set up by one race or sex in order to exclude another race or sex. And it's like, okay, well now that's just history. Now you're just saying we can't teach history. And like the first half, you had me. It was great. Yes, we can't teach racism or sexism. Absolutely. And then it's like, and because we can't teach racism or sexism, we also can't teach that racism or sexism exist in the first place. And it's like, okay, well, no, fuck you now. And it's all because a bunch of people who don't know what critical race theory is are really, really scared of critical race theory. And a bunch of people who don't know what Marxism is are really, really scared of Marxism. And so they pass dumbass laws like that, where it's like, you can't teach kids to be racist. And it's like, awesome. That wasn't happening. I agree that that's the case. And then they're like, and that means that you can't teach anything about the history of racism. And it's like, you just fucking, dude, the problem really is that they don't want us seeing them and their grandparents in those pictures of the people screaming at the Ruby Bridges. That's the real problem. And so like at the end of the day, you don't want us to find out your and your family's history. It makes you uncomfortable to think about the fact that your grandma was probably one of the people screaming at Rosa Parks, and now you're making it everybody's fucking problem. Meanwhile, the difference between me and a black person who remembers a time when they weren't allowed to drink out of a certain drinking fountain is that one of us has gray hair. It's a very minor time difference. And so, yeah, dude, I'm not a fan of the whole situation. And I think that critical race theory, just like evolution and just like socialism, is those things that the people who really hate it and really want it kept out of schools and really want it kept out of America also don't know what the fuck they are and cannot define them if they tried. And that's my whole thing there.
Yeah, it's like they're little boogie monsters that they can keep pulling out these words to scare their fan base with that also doesn't know what they're talking about. So
just vapid, meaningless talking points that don't mean. Oh, and woke. Woke is another one. Anybody who accused, what the fuck does woke mean? Tell me what woke means, because Ron DeSantis did. And guess what?
Oh,
by Ron DeSantis's definition, Ron DeSantis is woke as fuck. It's like, because I think the definition, he fired somebody, but like I believe it was a lawyer. He fired a lawyer on his campaign for being woke or something like that, and they filed a wrongful termination lawsuit. And they said, you have to tell me define what the word woke means that you were able to fire somebody under. And the definition they came up was like the belief that there are like inadequacies or how do you say, inequalities in America that need to be addressed or something like that. It was some very vague thing about like any form of justice whatsoever. And it's like, okay, so every time your dumbass gets up there and says that the election was stolen, that's woke now because you said it was. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's a whole other tirade for another time.
Justin, did you have any other specific questions about that or just in general?
Not really, just because like came across is about a teacher getting their license revoked, and then the judge
I don't know
told
the
them
details,
to
but I've heard.
release the order.
Yep.
The whole like process,
Wow.
like she didn't even break the law that they accusing her of breaking. That the guy who was running for superintendent just wanted to, increase his political standing to get elected, and lives over it.
Yeah, no, that's I remember the case. I don't remember exactly all the details, but yeah, apparently I forgot if it's like the federal government or what. They're like demanding that Oklahoma turn over the meetings, the minutes of the meetings of like deciding what the hell's going on here and who we're firing and why and what these words actually mean in our laws. When we talk about how we can't teach CRT and we can't teach wokeism and all this stuff, what does that mean? What are you talking about? Why are you firing these teachers? And Oklahoma is doing what it always does, just dragging its feet and fighting tooth and nail to stay in the 18th fucking century. That's all we've ever done, and that's all we ever fucking do.
At 1775, right?
Yep, exactly. And so it's just really, really, really fucking annoying. But I know the case you're talking about. I'm sorry I don't have all the details about it. I'm just not up to date on things. I'm a little bit behind on a bunch of other projects right now, and I don't have time for a lot of social media and a lot of news to learn about it. But yeah, it sucks. It sucks living here, and it sucks what this state does to people.
It's why we're doing what we're doing. Thanks so much for calling, Justin.
Our state superintendent is the same fucking guy who put Shia Ryshek on our state library board. Libs of TikTok, the professional internet troll whose whole job is to call everybody trans and call everybody an LGBT activist, call everybody a groomer, get bomb threats called in against schools and shit like that. That lady is on our state library board because Ryan Walters or whatever the fuck, I forgot his name, just really wants to score as many political points with people who are just as hateful as they are dumb. That's his base. That's all he has is hate and fear mongering and poorly defined buzzwords. That is his entire job. That's it for me,
man. That's all
man.
I had to say, man. Hope you two have a great night.
Thanks so much for calling.
Take care.
Bye, Justin. That is a wrap on our show for today. Thank you guys.
It's over.
Maybe next time maybe tonight, I hope you get some better theist callers. Maybe this will be inspirational for some of them to hear and be like, I can do better than that. So good luck to you tonight. You guys stay tuned. Hang out with Forrest and Aron Adair. 7 p.m. Central Time. Thank you all so much for being here. Special shout out to Amargan, our producer, my favorite Amargan.
Hey.
And thank you to our screeners, our moderators, everybody. Love you all. We'll be back. Mostly Forrest will be back. Oh, that way. Bye, everybody.
Tune in to watch me and Aron Adair and mostly Aron Adair.
And then